Well, I know Marcus, it's probably chilly where he is. And
Just chilly, but you know, it's not bad. It's not bad at all.
okay. Hey, Dana. Dana's coming online. Okay, I'm showing 8 o'clock.
Yeah, so
Take it away. We got a lot to cover in a short time.
yeah, you got it. So listen, thank you all for being here. And I'm so excited about this opportunity and the opportunity to actually put on or host this event. And so, you know, congratulations for taking the step and for actually being here. I had the opportunity, you know, if you're like, well, let me back up for a minute. If you're like our market, most markets around the country, right, we are, let's just call it listing challenged, right? A little bit shy on inventory and certainly plenty of buyers. And so I had the opportunity to hear part of this class, you know, a few months back, and I thought, man, what an amazing approach. I loved what John had to share. I loved his system and some of the scripts that he used, and I thought, wow, what if I could get him to do that for me? And so I reached out, and of course he had agreed to it. He says, absolutely, I'll do that for you. And I wanted to invite as many people as I possibly could. And of course, because, well, this is the market that we're faced with, right? And we started 2021, and if we want to hit our goals this year, we're going to have to do things a little bit differently, and we're going to have to start focusing probably more on listings. If you like the teams that I coach, gosh, it was all buyers last year for the most part, coming out of the woodworks, right? And so our conversation has been get real serious about listings. And so I wanted to put this on. So for those of you who don't know John has coached thousands of agents, team leaders, and of course, broker owners and managers across the country for years. And of course, most recently, he was the director of BOLD, a coaching class that was taught throughout the country and part of Keller Williams. Of course, he rewrote that not only once, but twice, because he rewrote it for this new digital age that we happen to be in. But what I want you to know most importantly is that he was the #1 listing agent in his time in Brevard County. And that's why we're here today, right? It's to talk about for sale by owners and expireds and generating that immediate income from that. And of course, beefing up the listing inventory that we all so much need. So without further ado, I'd like to not waste any more time and allow him to take it away. So John.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you. So first of all, before we get started, it's an honor to work here. Thank you, Mark. Mark's clapping for me. I appreciate that. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here. You know, it's really awesome when we can actually be in person. And my wife owns a training company in South Florida. Goes all the way from Key West up to Vero Beach and both sides of the state. Ends around Tampa, Nikki Bedini's area. And we've actually done several live classes in the last 4 months. And so it's always much more fun to be in a live environment. And yet I'm honored to be part of this group today. Our assistant is on the call today. Her name is Jen. Jen, if you can speak up and say hello so everybody can see your face. And Jen has already sent out to you guys a link that you could download the actual student manual that I created and I put together. So I think it's also in the chat box. If you click at the bottom there where it says chat, then you can download that. And it would be very helpful for you guys to just follow along and fill in the blanks. We found the adult learners learn better when they can take notes as they go along, and it helps you to pay more attention. Then you've got a classroom material that you can follow. At the end of today's class, my goal is for all of you guys to be able to go out and do exactly what I've done to be as successful as I was over the years, to become the top agent in Brevard, North Carolina. And I'm going to share with you a step-by-step how I did it and step-by-step on how you can do it too, okay? Hey, Cedric, how you doing? Glad to have you with us. I see some other people coming on right now. Hello, Tom, how are you? Dana, James, thank you. Thank you for being there. Ken, thank you. I see you guys, awesome. Okay, so if you haven't had an opportunity to download that and print it, now would be a good time to go ahead and do it. There's going to be a lot of fill in the blanks to make sure you have a hard working copy, okay? Now, before I get started, here's what I'd like to do. I want to talk to you just kind of as friends here, as friends, fellow realtors. I think there's some mortgage guys here. I think you can relate to this. I think you realize that Curtis ran a big mortgage company. He coached mortgage companies for years because of his great experience and what he's done in the past. So if you're a mortgage or if you're a title, you still have a database, right? And you can still communicate with your database. So you may be hearing some things today where we're really focused on real estate agents and getting listings. But we also know that as mortgage company owners, your job is to also work in partnership with real estate agents, right? So you can still call expired, you can still set appointments for realtors. You can go through, do you have somebody that can help qualify those buyers that come and contact you? Those are all scripts that work for you, just like they work for real estate agents, okay? So this class is not necessarily just for realtors only. It works for everybody. Does that make sense? So before I get started, there's some things I want to say to you guys. And number one, I'm just really passionate about helping people in general become the best that they can be and become successful. And I guess my sort of passion is to write classes that help other real estate agents. So one of the things I want to say to everybody is it's not just about making money, it's about keeping money. Would you guys agree with that? It's what your net is. I mean, what good is it at the end of the year, make $1 million or $500 and you have nothing left over at the end of the year and you go, well, I've got great tax write-offs. I mean, my goal is for you to have a lot of money so that you can invest that money. And I teach another class on investing, especially for real estate agents, because, we don't have the traditional 401ks. And so real estate agents, you have to pay yourself as the president of your LLC or your corporation. Then you need to set up a SEP account. Then you need to put that SEP account into a Roth. Then you need to maximize it out. So someday when you take that money out of the bank account, you pass it on to your kids or your grandkids or whoever it's going to be, tax-free. It grows tax-free. And so again, I'm very passionate about helping people understand, it's not about the gross, it's about the net. Now I've coached guys that are 40, 50, $60 million around the country and hardly make anything at the end of the year because they spend everything on marketing, and you just don't have to do that, okay? So I went over this with Curtis last night. I wrote another class on marketing, how to keep your expenses low and still how to brand yourself. We're not going to cover that today, but we are going to hit on it today just a little bit, all right? Now, here's what I'd like you to write down first thing. This is what got me years ago when I first started focusing on for sale owners and expireds, the class I'm about to teach you today, is that only 2%, really less than 2% of all agents at National Association of Realtors actually will pick up the phone and call expireds. Less than 2%. So that's a big deal, guys. That means you got 98% of realtors out there that just go, I'm not doing it. I am not calling. They're mean. They're hateful. Yeah, they're hateful if you're the 15th caller of the day or the 10th. The goal is to be the first, not to be the third, right? Because you're going to hear people say, hey, you're the third realtor who's called me today. So with that number, I said to myself years ago, well, if only 2% of the agents are calling, then I should be one of those 2%. I mean, it's money being left on the table if I don't call. Okay, does that make sense, everybody? Just shake your head if it does. Okay, now some of you possibly knew that. Now, when you break it down even further and you go, well, 2%, well, does that mean that 2% calls every day? What do you think? The answer is no. No, it just means 2% of the population of National Association of Realtors ever even makes an effort. It doesn't mean they do it 7 days. Now, the message I want to get across to all you guys today is quite simply this. Every day that you decide, and it is a decision, that you're not going to call an expired, which all expireds happen every night. And so a lot of people will say to me, well, John, we don't have many expireds in the area. And I go, really? Well, here's a great coaching question. Why don't you go pull the expireds for the last 30 days? How many were there? I don't care if there was 12, 17. They're still expiring, even in these hot markets, right, with multiple offers. Then I say simply, and out of the 12, out of the 11, out of the 9, out of the 4, how many did you get? And the answer is a big fat 0. And so you understand there's somebody in your area right now that is religious about calling expireds every single day, whether they do it or they're the rainmaker of a team and they have somebody doing it. There's always that one guy or that one lady that's going to call every day. Now, sure, they take vacation, they go out of town, they have a life, They hire somebody to do it. And that's the point I want to get across to you guys today, whether you're a mega agent yourself or whether you're going to make the calls, you're leaving money on the table if you don't make phone calls. Does that make sense? Okay. Did you know that each, whether it be a for sale by owner or an expire, required two different marketings? So what I mean by two different marketings, I mean it's a different style we're going to go through today on how you get an expired listing and how you get a for sale by owner listing. So you may want to write that down, okay? So FSBOs and expireds are different until you take the listing. Now, once you take the listing, it's going to be the same. And we'll cover that as we go through the material today. Here's another stat from NAR. Did you know that most people will stay with the same real estate agent that they expired? In other words, the agent could not sell their home and they wind up staying with the same agent. Now, why do you guys think that is? Anybody want to unmute yourself and tell me why do they stay with the same agent, in your opinion?
Convenience.
What do you mean by convenience?
It's easier to stick with the same thing that you already have as opposed to go out and vet a new agent.
Now, who said that?
Kirk.
Kurt, you're 100% right. That's the number one answer. Now, here's the thing. Let me ask you guys a simple question. Whether you're a mega agent or you've ever hired one person, just an assistant to help you with your business, is hiring people fun for us as real estate agents, title company, or mortgage? Do we just get up in the morning excited to go through interview after interview with people and turn people down, especially if they really need a job? Is it fun for us to go through resume after resume, hundreds of resumes where people want to work for you? Is that fun, making the right decision, thinking you may have to fire somebody? Is that fun for us? So I see everybody shaking their head almost. No, it's not fun. I've never met anybody that loves to hire people unless you're in the HR business. And I've got a lot of friends that are doing that and they don't like doing it either. Right? So my point is, do you guys think it's fun for a seller to have to go find an agent in the first place? Unless they're referred to them, it's not fun, right? They have to go work and they have to interview them. They just don't like it. And they're not in the HR business, right? So do you think it's going to be fun for them to rehire another agent? No. So they stick with the same agent that didn't do their job, which is get their house sold, right? So we're going to talk about that as we go through the class today. How, first of all, when you take a listing from now on, you're going to get the houses sold, right? There's no reason not to get the house sold if you have great communication with your sellers, okay? All right. The other thing is, I want you to write this down, okay? And I really want you to get this. You guys don't know me like Curtis does or Debbie Lattuga that worked with me, partners with me in a class that we used to teach around the country. Write this down, and I want you to really think about this deeply. Are we doing a disservice? Are we doing a disservice to sellers? Are we doing a disservice to sellers by not picking up the phone and calling them? Are we doing a disservice to sellers by not picking up the phone and calling them and giving them an alternate choice? Now, we already went back and we talked about, they stay with the same agents. Only 2% of the agents ever call anybody. They probably will hire another agent if somebody would just raise their hand. The problem is when 15 people raise their hands and call the sellers and they're not getting any buyers to call them, then they get frustrated and they yell at the realtors that call them. Here's my experience after doing this for over 10 years of calling expireds on a daily basis. And when I wasn't in town, I had an assistant that did it, but we never missed a single day. That's the reason we're number one in calling expireds and FSBOs. Now, here's what I found out. When you're the first one to call them, they're never going to say you're the third agent or the second agent or the fourth agent to call me. Why are you agents bothering me, or whatever the case may be? Does that make sense? And simple math says that if you are hearing people say to you, you know, all you realtors want to do is get a commission. You're the second agent to call me. Why do you realtors keep bothering me? You got to call sooner. I used to call at 7:30 in the morning. Now, people used to freak out when I teach this class. They go, oh my God, you can't call people that early in the morning. Yeah, you can, because I did it for years, and I did it in Miami, Florida, where I grew up. And I first started selling real estate in Plantation area, Weston area. And then I also did it in North Carolina. Listen, somebody that wants to sell their home and a real estate agent does not sell it for 6 months. And then all of a sudden, another agent calls and says, is your home still for sale? The script I'm going to give you guys today. I never once in 10 years had somebody get upset with me for calling them. Not once. Yet most people think, oh, well, you know, people are going to get upset with you if you call them at 7:30 in the morning. No, remember, they're frustrated because they've had their house on the market for 6 months and it hadn't sold. Okay. So if anything I teach you today or any instructor teaches you and you're not sure about it, the way I always say it is like Jesus says it in the Bible, test me on this. You know, don't just sit there and form your own opinion and go, no, you know, that's not going to work here in my area. Test me on this. You're leaving too much money on the table not to test me. Does that make sense? Everybody shake your head if it does. Okay. All right. So y'all ready to get started? All right. Well, first of all, I want to thank Curtis and Debbie Lattuga for bringing me in here. And we're going to talk about some studies as we go through here. And this is all proven. None of this that I'm going to teach you guys today is unproven, okay? Like some trainers may come on and say, well, you know, in theory, this should work. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to share the screen here. It's called immediate income. Now, that doesn't mean someday income. So you guys are in an environment right now where listings are very hard to come by. And they're really not. There's people out there, by the way, that would sell their house if they knew the market was as hot as it is. And if they had another place to go to. At some point, the market is going to slow down a little bit, and you're going to start seeing listings come on the market like crazy. Right now, the challenge we're having, I mean, I'm in Vail, Colorado, and I know this area pretty well. We own a real estate franchise up here in Golden, Denver, which is at the base of Vail. And it's hot all over the place. It's hot in Denver, it's hot in Florida, it's hot in North Carolina. And the challenge is people won't put their house on the market because they have nowhere to go. They'll get top dollar for the house and they'll turn around and have to pay top dollar for something else. Is that what you guys are experiencing too? I see Barbara shaking her head. The answer is yes, right? And Curtis, by the way, thank you, Curtis. You sent me some numbers and you know, the numbers didn't surprise me a bit. It's the same thing, the absorption rates, you know, turnover, lack of inventory. Gosh, you've got about 1 month's supply of inventory on listings right now. At the same time, last year in January, you had 4 months. I mean, guys, it's like this all over the country. Give you an example in Texas. My nephew's a real estate agent in the Austin area. He put a home on the market, listen to this, for $335,000. It sold for $132,000 more than asking price. There was 38 offers came on the property within 1 hour. So that's what's happening everywhere. It's not just in South Florida. So this class is how do you make immediate income right now, income, by using a technique called expireds and for sale by owners. So if a couple of you could unmute your call just for a second, and are you seeing a full screen right now?
Yes.
Yes. Perfect. Thank you, guys. Over the top right, if you're seeing a drop-down bar with a bunch of pictures and it's blocking part of your screen, if you look up at the top, you'll see 3 little boxes. One of them is just a single tiny, it looks like a dash. It's actually a tiny rectangular box. Then there's another one to the right of it. It's a little bit bigger. And then there's another one that has a bunch of dots in it. It looks like a different way of looking at people. Click the one to the left, which is a speaker mode. So it'll kind of take away of the pictures and then you can see the whole screen. Okay. All right, so let's go through this presentation together. And so the first thing I want to always do is I want to thank our sponsors. So this class is being proudly brought to you by Coach Curtis L. Tirey, my friend, and Debbie Lattuga, also my friend. And their website, if you don't know this, is www.thesalesteamcoach.com. And of course, you know to contact them at coach@thesalesteamcoach.com. And you probably also have Curtis' email address. Okay, so guys, thank you for allowing me to come on this class and teach it today. I'm very excited about it. I appreciate it. Now, first of all, studies have shown that adult learners learn quicker and retain information longer by what? And a couple of you guys can unmute yourself so you can talk.
Participation.
Yeah, there you go, participation. So in your handouts, if you will, write down participation. Now, by the way, let me tell you something. When you're on the listing presentation, you don't want the seller just sit there the whole time listening. It should be 50-50. I mean, you should be doing some talking and they should be doing more talking. After all, God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth, right? So let them participate. And, you know, and participation is by showing them slides of your presentation or handouts or flyers you're going to make or whatever that case is. Get their involvement in it. And then how you participate here. In other words, in this class today is how you'll participate everywhere. So if you're in a, write in the word participate again, if you're in a quiet environment where there's not a dog barking and people moving around in the background, I'd love for you to just stay unmuted so that you can answer questions right away and participate, okay? That'd be very helpful to me also. Now, I've got to mention this because anytime I teach a class, I'm always concerned about real estate agents being sued. The TCPA, it's called the Telephone Consumer Protection Act, says this: warning, real estate agents who violate the Telephone Consumer Protection Act, TCPA, and the National Do Not Call Registry face potentially catastrophic, everybody say catastrophic,
Catastrophic.
legal damages. One violation is $40,600 the last time I checked. One violation. If you're using a predictive dialer, which I used for years, by the way, and you're calling 4 or 5 people at one time and then one person answers and then the other phones drop off and leave a virtual digital message or whatever, you just got to make sure that those phone numbers you're calling are not on the National Call Registry. Because imagine being hit with several lawsuits. Now remember, the government gets to keep part of the money, so they're all behind this in getting people to file lawsuits against real estate agents or anybody else that calls. One of the major cable companies is in a major United States, every state class action lawsuit right now, and it's a major company, you would know the brand. Because they used a predictive dialer and they were just constantly dialing people to get them signed up for their cable company. So guys, be very careful whether you're a real estate agent or whether you're title or whether you're mortgage. If you don't have permission to call or text, it's the same thing with text messages. Be very careful. Do not use or leave artificial or pre-recorded messages unless you have screened these calls. And check the National Registry and your internal registry before you dial. Don't want anybody get in trouble, okay? All right. Gary Keller, the founder of Keller Williams and a CEO and chairman of the board, says this, and this is in your handout: don't let small thinking cut your life down to size. Think big, aim high, act bold, and see just how big you can blow up your life. Now think about that for a minute. Now, what does that mean? Okay, now I know we have a lot of mega agents on the call today, and you guys are doing 25, 30, $40 million, and I get it. However, even at 40 million or 4 million in volume, I want to ask you a question. Are you thinking big enough? See, what is small thinking? Small thinking that cuts your life down to size is when you say, yeah, but that doesn't work for me. Yeah, but that doesn't work in Sarasota. That may work up in North Carolina. That doesn't work here. Well, don't forget, John Prescott sold real estate in Miami, Florida, in Aventura for years in a condo community near the beach, just like a lot of you guys. And trust me, it worked just as good there as it does anywhere. So don't let that, whatever you want to call it, that drunk monkey or that monkey mindset get into your head that says, oh, well, that won't work here. It will work here. Now, thinking big means, when you graduated from high school, how big were you thinking? Were you going to have yachts, boats, airplanes, multiple houses? What were you going to do, right? And aim high, because remember, you got to aim high to hit your target. You're not going to aim right at your target. So if you want to sell 100 houses a year, you got to aim for listing 150, right? You got to aim higher in order to hit your goal. And then acting bold, what I mean by that is when you walk in the door, the first thing you're going to say is, thank you for having me over today. So you're ready to get your house on the market with me today. Now that's acting bold. And a lot of people just can't do that. And even if the seller pushes back and says, hold on, Slick, you know I'm going to interview 3 other people, just laugh about it. You're acting bold by putting it out there, you know, so you're ready to get your house listed with me today. Any thoughts on this screen by anybody before we move on? Then let me ask you guys all a question. Are you thinking big? Are you aiming high? Are you acting bold?
Not enough.
There you go. We have one honest person.
Not high enough.
Okay. Hey, Curtis, we were going to do a quick poll. Were we able to do that, or did we just want to do it in the chat box?
So I did set it up. I think if you click the button down at the bottom that says polls, you should have a first question that'll pop up. Oh, it says launch polling. I can do that. There we go.
Okay.
Should be out there.
Thank you for doing that. So Curtis has just launched a poll that he wanted to ask a question, just so we have a general question. Then we're going to ask the same question at the end of this class to see how you did. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10, you're an expert. How would you currently rate yourself on working with or calling expireds? Could y'all just go ahead and do a submit there?
It's anonymous.
The what?
Do you see, does everybody see the poll down at the bottom?
Oh, 10 being there.
It popped up on my screen.
Hey, John, as you're kind of working through this, I'm going to jump in just for a second. You know, going back to the bold comment and acting, you know, thinking big. And I'm just kind of going to be honest for a moment. I said on the title side, so I see a wide swath of people from Michigan to Florida to Illinois to New York. And this is just a gut punch to all realtors listening. As a title agent, seeing people come in, I see realtors being really lazy right now. I think the last year has set people up, and business has been so plentiful. And I don't want to say it's easy to get, but if you get listings, they're selling so quickly. And if you have buyers, the properties are going quickly. So the amount of effort that's being put in, it just doesn't take as much effort. I mean, that goes on the title side as well. I sat down with our marketing team and I said, when we ran into January 1st, I said, look, guys, you got to get off your hands. You've got to get active right now. So being bold, thinking big, all those things, it just doesn't apply on the realtor side. I think, as you said, it applies to mortgage, title, across the board. But I worry about all of us right now when the market changes and shifts. You know, the people that have prepared for this, the people that are, you know, thinking big are the ones that are going to come out, you know, on the other side. So just, I agree with you, but I think even for us, we've really just gotten a little bit lazy and lethargic through the whole COVID set. What are your thoughts on that?
How long have you been in the business?
This is our 30th year in the business, 20th year as title company owners.
Let's go back to 2008. Let's go to 2007. Didn't you see the very same thing happen then?
Yeah, exactly.
Laziest realtors you ever saw was in 2006, 2007. You'd get a real estate license. I can't really speak for what do you call it? A mortgage or title. I can just speak for realtors. You get a real estate license and you put it out there. You sell 3 or 4 houses just to your family and friends. That laziest way of ever doing it. Nobody's picking up the phone. That's my point today. What I'm going to teach you guys how to do is be unlazy, so that you'll actually learn the skills that you need when we come out of this market. And you're going to have to start working hard. You'll have those basic skills. So Ken, I appreciate you bringing that up. I think that's absolutely true.
I think it's an honest vision of where we're at right now.
No, I agree with you totally. Okay, guys, so let me go ahead and jump back into the share screen one more time and where we were. Thank you for filling that out. And then what we're going to do is we're going to come back to that in a minute. Okay, so the first thing I want to ask you guys, expired listings. So what do we know about them? So now unmute your call. This is where we participate. unmute your call and tell me what, and I'm going to write it down too. So you tell me, what do you know about expireds based on your experience right now? Go ahead.
Want to sell their house.
Okay, so let's write that down. They want to sell. We know that, right? Because they've been on the market. So they want to sell. Now, that's not 100%, right? Some people put their house on the market, change their mind, especially in this environment. They put their house on the market. What do they do? They start looking around at another house, and the houses are way more than they thought. And they go, well, crap, if I sell my house now, then I'm going to have to pay way more, even though I'm going to get top dollar for my house. They panic and they turn around and take off their house off the market. So as we as realtors have to have that conversation with them, so we don't do a bunch of work and then just have them 30 days later turn around and take the house off the market, right? So good point. Okay, what else do we know?
They don't like their agent.
Well, they may not. We're not positive about that. However, their agent didn't do the job. I mean, the job
Right.
they were hired for was to sell the house. So they may, let's write that down. They may not like their agent. However, what did we say? Most people will go with the same agent. So they may not like them, but they still go with them, right?
I would also say there's some level of frustration at this point.
Yeah.
They've been on the market for 6 months. So
If they truly want to sell, there's definitely a frustration, which is 98% of them probably are going to be frustrated. There's still about 2 to 4% put their house on the market just to test the market and get top dollar. They don't really care if it sells or not. If they get $132,000 over asking price, they're fine. They'll go rent for a while, right? Okay, what else do we know?
They may be overpriced.
Yeah, they may be. And thank you for saying maybe, because a lot of people will say they're overpriced, and not necessarily. I've seen a lot of times they're just not marketed properly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oftentimes they've been underserved by their previous agent or broker.
A lot of times, you know, and here's what happens. It's human nature when you're not doing your job, and you know you're not doing your job because you can't sell the house, and that was your job to do, is sell the house. You avoid conflict, and it's a human nature. And when we avoid conflict with sellers, that means we don't call them. So the last 2 months, they probably haven't had any communication or very, very little communication.
John, getting back to your topic about, let's call it lackadaisical attitudes. We see a lot of listings we're in Albuquerque, in the Albuquerque market, and other markets, that the brokers are pretty much not paying attention to detail. So the presentation sometimes has a lot to do, both in pictures and live, have a lot to do with, you know, people overlooking maybe a property.
Yeah, well, there's no doubt. And that goes back to what Ken says, with him seeing, he's been in the business for 20 to 30 years, and he's seeing this laziness going on. Remember, when homes are selling like they are today, it's very attractive for people to switch job careers and go, oh, I'll get my real estate license. Anybody can sell real estate. And they just put the word out there, and next thing you know, they get a listing, they sell a house, they make $15,000, $20,000, right? So like Ken says, they get very, very lazy, right? So yeah, there's no doubt a lot of that's going on. And being lazy means not taking virtual tours, means not doing a good job with the photos. It means, you know, listing a 3-bedroom as a 2-bedroom. It means listing them in the wrong subdivision. These are all things that could cause a home to not sell, right? So here's what I put down in my notes. Number 1, nobody got this one, so please write it down. They happen every day. At midnight, every single MLS in the country is going to have expired listings. Now, if in your little town like Brevard, like where I'm from, you may go a day or two with no expired listings. However, if you look back on the month, let's say January, there was probably 17 expireds in January in Brevard. Maybe there was 2 or 3 days where they didn't expire. Maybe on the end of the month, December 31st, maybe 14 of them all expired on the 14th, and then just 3 more expired. So when you're in a bigger town, though, like when you're in Miami, Florida or something, you've got any given day 40, 50 expireds happening every day. So just keep that in mind. So what you want to do is make a mental note to go back and look at how many homes expired in the last 90 days in your area. And then what I want you to do is go, how many did I actually get? 0, whatever it is. Then how many did I potentially leave on the table? whatever number is 40 times your average commission, $10,000, potentially I've left, $400,000 in commissions on the table. Okay. This is what I'm going to keep encouraging you to do, whether you call them every day or whether you hire somebody to call them every day, like I eventually started doing. 7 days a week, they were going to be called because it was a service that I felt like I was offering. Now, whether they wanted my service, whether they wanted me to come by to see if I could potentially help them or not was up to them. It was just no sweat off me. I just wasn't going to let that disservice happen by not reaching out to them. Okay. Number two, they have already tested the market. And what do we mean by that? We mean that we know what price will not sell in this market. As long as the MLS is filled out properly, then we know they've tested the market. So we probably know that even in this hot market, if you got an expired listing, the market is not willing to pay the price that they had on the MLS that particular moment in time. Now, maybe a year from now they will, not today. All right. And then number three, they are willing to sell with a real estate professional because they've already had the market, the house on the market. They're not like starting out as a for sale by owner where they think they can do it themselves. So they're willing, they trust real estate agents, or at least they've shown that they trust them in the past. Okay. So make sure you write that down. These are things we got to really get. And then the last one, they will usually, no one said this one, they will usually relist their home if they're serious about selling within 10 days. So deductive reasoning says to us, we've got 10 days to take that listing before somebody else does, because most people, and I'm talking high 80%, will relist within 10 days. Now, if they don't relist in 10 days, they've been so hurt by the experience, or either they've changed their mind. So then it's just our goal to call and say, have you changed your mind? And the best script there is, if I could find you a buyer ready, willing, and able to pay your price today, would you list with me? And if they say, well, yeah, do you have a buyer? Say, well, I don't know. I haven't gone by and seen your house yet. Okay. Any questions on this right here? Expired listings. What do we know about them before we move on? Now, you guys came up with some real good ones too. Yet I think these are the key ones that I really want you to focus in on. They happen every day. They have already tested the market with the real estate agent with a price. They're willing to sell with the real estate agent, and they will usually relist within 10 days. So we have a 10-day window. Now, when we talk about for sale by owners here in a little while, it's going to be different. For sale by owners are going to be 8 weeks. Usually when they put that sign in the yard, it takes about 6 to 8 weeks before they list with the real estate agent. 94% of them will. However, expired listings, they've already told us they don't necessarily want to do the work themselves. They're going to hire an agent. Okay. So now what we're going to do is, and I don't want this to sound egotistical. However, I wrote this class based on what worked for me. Now, just a little bit of background. When I moved from Miami, Florida to Brevard, North Carolina, and I started selling real estate, I didn't know a single person in the area. So the only thing I could do to start making money fast and put money on the table for my family was to start calling expireds. So it was the very first thing I did was expireds, and then I sprinkled in for sell by owners. It took me a good 6 months of doing a lot of marketing and getting out and speaking at Rotary and Lions Club, Chamber of Commerce and stuff like that before my name became known. So when I wrote this class, it's my 6 steps. It's not something I read out of a book. This is what I specifically, purposefully did that got me the results that caused me to be the #1 agent in Brevard within a 3-year time period. So from 0 to #1 in 3 years. The other thing that happened is in the 4th year, I opened my own real estate company. And the day that we opened the company, we were #2 in market share because the John Prescott home selling team was selling so much real estate on their own. Okay. So again, this is not the brag. This is just to say that this is the reason I call it my 6-step system, because I know it works. #1, here's what I'd like you to do, and write this in your handout. So you get up about 7 a.m. if you're willing to do this because you want to beat out your competition. You get your coffee, whatever, you search the MLS for expired listings before 7 a.m. You can set yourself up as a prospect and you can have expired listings in the general area that you farm or that you sell in emailed to you. So you get your homes, maybe it's only 3, maybe it's only 1, maybe it's only 4, maybe it's 7, I don't know. You find those listings, you take a look at them. Now, since you may have 10 or 12 expireds happen in one day and you don't want to call all 10 or 12 with the system I'm going to teach you anyways, then what you do is you pick the top 2 or 3 that you're going to call. Like which of these 12 would I want to put a sign in the front yard first? And which one would be the second one? Okay. Then you ensure they have not relisted on the MLS. So the best way to do that is to, I believe in the state of Florida, don't we use a parcel identification number still, PIN number? Anybody tell me?
Yeah, it's a PID.
PID, okay, use call it PIN, parcel identification number. So PID. So what I do is I'd copy the PID number off of the MLS. Is that still on the MLS down there?
Yes.
Okay, so I'd copy it. I would drop it in the search field on the MLS and I would hit submit. And then what I would do is I would make sure, and by the way, I hear some people from Arizona and there's some people from North Carolina on the call, and I know in North Carolina it's a PIN number. So what I would do is I do a quick search just to make sure that they have not been relisted with another agent. Like sometimes they expire one morning and all of a sudden go relist with another agent the same day, okay? Mm-hmm. Then check the do not call list before you call them. Now, by the way, let's say if I check the do not call list and I really want this listing and they're on the do not call list, what do you think I might do?
Go knock on the door.
There you go. Who said that?
Marcus.
Marcus, that's exactly what I do. Congratulations. I'm not going to let anything get in the way of me talking to these people. So I'm not going to go over at their house at 7:30, but I can tell you one thing, at 9 o'clock, I'm knocking on that door, 9 a.m.
John?
Yes, ma'am.
In Florida, I'm calling from Florida, we have an awful lot of gated communities and we have a lot of communities where there is no solicitation allowed. And a lot of these people, if you go to their door, I mean, they're brutal saying, you know, you should not be soliciting here, blah, 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 blah. So there's a limitation on some of the communities that you can get into.
Yeah, no, well, remember, I grew up in Florida, so I'm aware of that. And also in North Carolina, we have a lot of gated communities. So let me just say this. And again, I will just hold your thinking for just a minute and just say as is possible. First of all, let's talk about mindset. You as a realtor can get into just about any gated community. If you go, I mean, up here in Vail, there's $40 million homes all over the place, a gated community. I pull up to any gate and I go, I'm John Prescott, I'm a realtor, and I show them business card. I'm going to the country club, or I need to preview a house for the Jones house of Mrs. Jones at 123 Great, whatever that street is. And just about every one of those gates will let me in, okay? Now, sure, there's circumstances where you cannot get inside a gated community. I get that. Then you have to call them, right? And I'm going to teach you a script here in a few minutes. It's a non-solicitation script, okay? Now, let's take it one step further. So when I would go to somebody's house, even though it was a gated community with no solicitation signs, I'm not soliciting. The difference between asking somebody, are you thinking about hiring an agent to sell your house? I'd like to be that person. That's solicitation. If you ask somebody, is your house still for sale? I would like to take a look at it personally. Like maybe you might be a buyer for it if it's a good enough deal. Once you get in the house though, and you take a look at it, then you might say something like, I might have a buyer. Again, you're not asking for the business at that point. So just be open-minded as we go through the rest of the presentation on this, okay? Because I do understand gated communities and challenges you might have getting in there, okay? Fair enough?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Now, check the do not call list. The next thing is call them early. Now, this is the number one thing when I've coached top agents all over the country. Most agents, even mega agents, are not willing to call early. So, for example, I was coaching a top agent, number one agent in Chicago. Her name is Caramel. And she said, John, you know, your expired program is just not working in my area. She goes, you don't understand. She goes, every time I call them, nobody's home. And I said, well, Kara, what time you calling? She said, 9 o'clock. And I said, well, what time people go to work generally? And she says, well, they have to be at work at 8. And I said, well, Kara, if you call at 9, are you ever going to reach anybody? And she said, well, I guess not, but what time do I call? And I said, you may have to start calling around 7, 7:30, 7:15. I don't know. What time do people leave in Chicago with all that traffic in order to get there? She goes, well, won't they be mad? And I said, my experience is they won't be mad. They remember, these are people that want to sell their house and they've been on the market for 6 months to a year and they haven't sold. Just test it, call them. And Kara started calling. She became the number one agent in Chicago, in her area of Chicago, of calling expireds, just because she simply started calling before they went to work. Okay. Now, if you're here's another thing. In my community in Brevard, North Carolina, where you have older people, they get up early anyways, and they have their coffee. So 7 o'clock in the morning, they're glad to talk to you. It's been my experience. Okay.
Is that a sign of being old?
Well, I think I am old. I'm 65 years old. And I'm retired basically, guys, and I still get up at 7 o'clock every morning. I want to get my day started. I mean, I don't know how much longer I have to live, so I want to enjoy every moment of it, right?
Exactly.
So anyway, I think it's a younger people, you know, like when I look at the younger people in their 20s, not all of them, of course. They're the ones that sleep in all the time, so I don't know. Okay, then call to set an appointment early for 9 o'clock or 11. Now I'm going to give you the script here in just a minute, okay? So with these bullet points here, will you guys just be open-minded enough, believing that this caused me to go from nobody, I didn't know anybody in Brevard, North Carolina, to being the number one agent within 3 years, in the 4th year, being able to open my own real estate company and being number 2 in market share the day that we opened the company. So this is how it got me there. Are y'all willing to be open-minded enough to say, you know, I may not agree with all 6 of these steps here. However, what have I got to lose? Does that make sense, everybody? Just say yay or nay or something.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now remember, our monkey mindset, you know, this comes from Buddha, this comes from training, is that we hear something and then we want to initially always say, that won't work for me, that won't work here, you know, because down deep in our minds, we may not really want to do this in the first place. So we're looking for reasons not to do it. Okay. And I can't, me or Curtis, we can't force you to do any of this, right? I'm just giving you what worked for me. Okay, so here's your script. Everybody ready? And y'all have this in your book. Good morning. So I call, ring, ring, ring. You answer the phone. Good morning. Thank you for taking my call. Your energy, everything's got to be high. Thank you for taking my call. Is this Mr. Blank? Now, the reason I say, is this Mr. Blank? I got burned one time. I called this person. I thought it was Mr. Smith. And I said, hi, Mr. Smith, how are you? This is John Prescott, Keller Williams Realty. I wasn't Keller Williams Realty at the time. And this voice was a female voice, very deep, and said, this is Mrs. Smith. And I kind of blew it right off the bat. So I go, oh, change the script. So is this Mr. Smith? No, this is Mrs. Smith. Oh, hi, Mrs. Smith. This is John Prescott from Keller Williams Realty, or whatever company you're from. Let's all practice that together. Everybody ready? 1, 2, 3. Good morning.
Morning. Thanks for taking my call.
Thank you for taking my call.
Is this Mr. Smith?
Is this Mr. Blank?
This
Mr.
is
Blank?
Robert Rickert with Keller
This
Williams
is-
Realty.
There you go, from whatever company you're from. Now practice that over and over again to where you just memorize that, you get internal, okay? The next question with a lot of energy, you go, hey, is your home still for sale? Everybody, let's practice it. Hey, is your home still for sale?
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 Hey, your home's still-
Beautiful, beautiful.
Hey, John,
Yep,
would you wait for them to respond to, is this Mr. Smith, before you say this is so-and-so from
Oh,
Keller
yeah,
Williams?
Yeah,
You
for
would.
sure. For sure. Because
I'm
you
always,
turn around, you want to turn around if you say, is this Mr. Smith? And they go, no, this is Mrs. Smith. If you heard me, I said, oh, Mrs. Smith, thank you for taking my call. This is John Prescott from Keller Williams Realty, right?
I don't know, I always feel more comfortable just telling them who I am up front.
Well, okay, so here's one of the things, thank you for saying that. Here's one of the things we learned in research. You know, at Keller Williams, this is not about Keller Williams, by the way, but we do have a research department that did a ton of research for us, and I got to work with these guys for years. And that's all they do. There's 4 people in a room, and they just do thousands and thousands of interviews. What they found is the best thing to do is say, good morning, good afternoon, good day. And then you go, thank you for taking my call. And then you say, this is, and then you ask a question, is this Mr. So-and-so? And then they say, yes, it's Mr. So-and-so. And you go, well, thank you, Mr. So-and-so. Then you say, this is your name, versus saying your name right up front. If you think about telemarketers, for example, they call and then right away they say something like, do you want to make more money or whatever? And you get turned off. So this script, I would use it because this is what I use for over 10 years that work great because it's based on research. Okay. Now, if your way of saying, hi, this is John Prescott, thank you for taking my call. If that works better, then, you know, if you're not getting pushback, then go ahead and do it. All right.
Okay.
Okay. Now, then you go, is your home still for sale? Now, all of you guys that said that, boy, I could feel the urgency in your voice. It sounded great. If they say yes, and see, they're going to probably say yes, because remember, it expired when?
Last night.
At midnight.
Started at 12:01, and they don't know, nobody's called them yet. You're calling them at 7:30, right? And if they say yes, you go, great. With the same energy and is your home still for sale? You go, great. May I come by and see it at 9 o'clock this morning, or would 11 o'clock be better? Now, again, if you have an appointment book and your appointment is already filled, you may have to say later. Just remember, the number one time to go by and see them is always going to be 9 a.m. Now, if they say, well, we leave for work, could you come by earlier? Could you stop by at 7:30? Could you stop by at 8 o'clock or something? If you can make it there sooner, that would be ideal. The main thing is you want to get there before they get tipped off and all these other realtors start calling them at 9 or 10 o'clock. All right, you set the appointment and you go see them. That's your script. Now, does everybody feel comfortable with that script?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you recommend setting the appointment for the same morning?
Oh yeah, always. With expires, remember you got a 10-day window. You got to get there before anybody else does. It's been proven by research that the first real estate agent that gets in the door is probably going to take that listing.
Wow, that's great, because a lot of the training I've had over the past years has been, you know, you don't want to set the appointment right then. You need to look busy. You know how it is. Do it the next week or a few days. That's a great question, Robert. Yeah, and much different than I was trained.
Well, yeah, well, try it. Do it this way, and then get back your results, your feedback to me.
Cool.
Otherwise, here's what's going to happen. You're going to go through life getting beat out left and right by other agents that are going to jump in there. Like if I'm in your area, I'm going to go by there real quick and I'm going to take that listing. That's just what's going to happen. And then other agents that are waiting, they're going to keep, you know, behind me. It's just going to happen. And it's not bragging. It's just a fact. Okay. Okay. All right. Now, so one thing I want to ask you before we leave this here on this expired script, is this a solicitation script?
Yeah.
No, it's not.
No, not hard.
It's not at all. See, let me make sure you understand what a solicitation script is. Good morning. Thank you for taking my call. Is this Mr. Smith? Hi, Mr. Smith. This is John Prescott of Keller Williams Realty. Hey, listen, the reason I was calling you today is because I'm calling to find out when you're going to hire the right agent for the job of selling your house. I would like to be the agent that you interview first. Now, is that solicitation?
Yes.
Yes.
Better believe it. I'm calling to get a job, right? I'm calling to get an interview. Let's go back to this script. I'm not requesting anything. I'm just saying, hey, is your home for sale? Great. Can I come by and look at it? No way am I saying that I want to take a listing here. Heck, I don't even know if I want to take the listing until I see the house. Does that make sense?
True.
So John, are you just doing a preview or are you prepared to do a listing presentation when you go there?
Well, me, just like you probably, I'm always prepared to take a listing, right? So I'm always going to have some papers in my car. I'm always going to be able to whip it out. However, somebody that's sold hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of homes like myself personally listed, I'm also prepared not to take every listing. I only want to take the listings that I think I can sell. I don't just want to have to, have a big bench of listings. And by the way, back in the days in North Carolina, I carried 43 listings at all times because homes didn't sell as quick as you put them on the market. And so, however, those 43 homes, just about every one of them sold unless the seller changed their mind. So my point is to you guys, don't take a listing if you don't think you can sell it. Whether you carry 40 listings or 4 listings. All right?
Did you ever have the prospect say, just go through my agent to schedule a showing when you ask them to see the house?
Nope, never happened, 10 years. Now, let's say, could it happen? My agent says, you're supposed to go through him. Well, it just doesn't happen. Remember the psychology of what's happened here. For most people, the last month or so, they haven't had any communication with their seller. So even though we as realtors tell them, now don't talk to any other agents, my job is, you go through me. Listen, they're frustrated with their last agent because the house hadn't sold. They're so excited when I would call them, whether it be in Miami or whether it be in North Carolina, they'd be so excited. They'd go, yeah, come on by. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It's a great question. Okay, now let's talk about the next thing, expired home visit. Our number one job, now everybody say this out loud, is to do what?
Get the listing.
No, like, and
No.
No, like, and trust us.
Say it again.
No,
No,
like,
like,
and
and
trust
trust
us.
us.
Because if they don't know, like, and trust you, they're not going to do business with you. Now, somebody said, it's to get the listing. Well, actually, it's to sell their house, right? If you want to take it to that step, or it's to get paid. Our number one job is to get paid. However, it starts with know, like, and trust. I mean, think about it. If you go buy a new car and the salesperson that's working with you, you don't know, like, and trust them, you probably will avoid buying a car that day and you'll go get it from somebody else, right? So our number one job is get it to know, like, and trust us. So the first thing you're going to do is introduce yourself at the front door. Big old smile on your face. You're going to say, good morning, Mrs. Blank. Thank you for having me over. Just like your phone call was, thank you for taking my call. You're going to say, thank you for having me over. Big old smile. You're going to say your name again. I am John Prescott, and we have an appointment at 9 o'clock, and it is 9 o'clock sharp. Now you see those blanks there, so go ahead and write that in your handout. Introduce yourself at the front door. Good morning, Mrs. Blank. Thank you for having me over today. I am your name, John Prescott, and we have an appointment at whatever time it is, and it's 9 o'clock sharp. And point to your watch. It's going to look funny if you don't have a watch, so put on your Mickey Mouse watch, whatever. Because why do we do that? Because so many real estate agents, as Ken said, are lazy and they're late all the time. And 5 minutes late to some people is like, you're not getting my listing. Next. Here's what I want you to do next. Once you get in the house, I want you to get them to know you, like you, and trust you. And the way you do that is ask questions. Now, what kind of questions do you ask? You ask questions about them. The number one question you can ask an older person is, tell me about your grandchildren. They love talking about their grandchildren. Anybody on the phone a grandparent yet? Okay, anybody on the call a father or mother?
Yes,
Do you like talking about your children?
always.
And when somebody asks you, if somebody says, tell me how things are going, and you start talking about business, they go, you know what, that's really nice, but tell me about your family. What are your interests? What do you like to do? Tell me about your kids. You'll get a big old grin on your face when that happens, won't you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we all do, right? We all do. So why are you selling your such a nice house? Always ask that question. Wow, as you're walking through the house, you go, wow, you really have a nice house here. So why are you selling such a nice house? Hey guys, everybody remember, every house is a nice house. Every house is a nice house or they wouldn't be living there. Every house is a nice house or they wouldn't have bought it in the first place. It may not be nice to you. Remember, it was nice to them when they bought it. You have a really nice house, so why are you, hey, you have a beautiful house here. Why are you selling your house? You have such a gorgeous house here. Whatever you want to say. Wow, you have such a great house with great views. Why are you selling such a great house? However you want to rephrase that, okay? Next question. Again, you're just walking through the house. This is not where you're standing in the living room drilling them, right? One question after another. As you're walking through the house, you go, hey, by the way, how long have you guys lived here? Then you say something like, how do you like the area? Hey, by the way, where will you guys be moving to when we sell your home? Why do you think your home has not sold? Now, remember, when you're talking to them, the teaching, the training out there is house or home. You want to get them to start thinking it's no longer their home, start thinking about a house. That's going to happen after you sign the listing papers. Right now, we're just going to call it a home. That makes sense? How does your family feel about selling? You're going to stay there on this question for a while. What do you expect your next agent to do that your last agent didn't do? Now, that's going to be your closing question, and you're going to get a negative response right after you ask that question. We're going to work through that here in just a minute. I want to do a role play. Who would like to do a role play with me on walking through the house, asking questions? So we can all learn from each other, just like I would do it in the real live world. Who would like to? Okay, what's your name?
Greg.
Greg, thank you, buddy. I appreciate you speaking up. This will help everybody. Okay, Greg, so I'm the realtor, and I'm just going to be asking questions, okay?
Sure.
Greg, let's set this up. I don't know, what would you like to say? Why would you be selling your house? So just so I have this set up in my head.
I'm selling my house because the kids are grown and the grandkids are out of state, so I'll try to get closer to them.
Okay, that's a very legitimate thing. Okay, now everybody's got the setup here, okay? All right, so I've called Greg this morning. His house expired last night, 12:01. I'm there at 9 a.m. I've introduced myself at the front door. We walked in. I've asked him a bold question as soon as I walked through the door. I said, so you ready to get your house on the market with me today? Well, I probably wouldn't ask that question right now if I haven't gone through these questions, because he's probably not tipped off yet that his house is not for sale, right? So in this case, the bold question might be, thank you so much for having me over today. I look forward to reviewing your house. Very professional like that. I probably wouldn't ask for the listing right now. Okay. All right. Now, so let's go through. So Greg, are you ready?
I'm ready.
So we're walking through the house. We've been down the hall. Greg showed me the bathroom. He showed me the kids' room. His kids grew up in this house. They moved away. One of the rooms are painted pink. Greg says, my daughter lived here 16 years ago. She moved out, but we've always kept the color of the room pink. We've been in the house for 37 years, blah, blah, blah. What do you think? Should I paint the room a natural color? Whatever Greg asks as we walk through the house, I'm just going to simply say, great question, and we're going to talk about that in just a little bit. Okay? Don't get sidetracked or bunny trailed. Now, at some point, as we're kind of walking through the house and I'm smiling, I'm letting Greg do the talking as she's showing me through the house and what he likes best of the house. I say, Greg, I got to ask you a question. You really have such a nice house here. Why are you thinking about selling it? Go ahead, Greg.
Well, talking to my wife, actually, because we have 4 grandkids. We got 2 identical twins in Philadelphia, and the other 2 are in downtown Pittsburgh. So we're in Ohio right now. It's a 9-hour drive away. So I know it's a weird time in the world to do anything right now, but we're talking about, if we get this sold, we could actually maybe get a condo or get something closer to them. So we're kind of getting to the retirement stage. It's time to enjoy our life because we're on the downhill side of the hill.
Well, you look pretty healthy. I don't think you're on the downside. I think you're on the upside, the way I look at it. So let's say you got kids. You got 4 kids that are out of state, 4 grandkids rather.
We got 4 grandkids out of state, yeah, and then 1 daughter's in Australia, and the other one's actually up in Minnesota. So we're kind of like we're trying to get a little closer to where they're at. Australia can't do much about right now until she comes back from her job over there with Google. But yeah, at this point, that's what we're doing. And we're thinking about it anyway.
Okay, so then where would you want to be living? In Minnesota or Australia?
I'm sorry?
Where is it that you want to move? You got a daughter in Australia and then you got another one in Minnesota. Where are you wanting to move to?
Well, we're kind of thinking to Philadelphia because of the two identical twins there. And then also the other daughter in Minnesota is looking ahead. Look, her job's actually going to bring her closer to Philly. So if we get in that area, we'll be close to 2 or 4 of them anyway at this point, along with all the 4 grandkids. You know, at this point, they're young. The grandkids are somewhere between 2 and 7 years old. So at this point, you know, the grandparents are still kind of can't do anything wrong. So before they get those teenage years, they kind of lose focus on grandkids and more of their own friends.
Yeah, I can certainly relate to that. That's great. You know, my grandfather was always spending time with me, and God, I just love those memories. Unfortunately, he's no longer here, but man, the memories I have of my grandfather taking me in the truck and looking at shopping centers. He was a general contractor. It's really, really awesome. Thank you for sharing that with me. I appreciate it. How long have you and your wife lived here?
We've been here now 35 years, and actually I'm a contractor for 40 years. So I bought this house, a condemned house, and I've redone everything from top to bottom, everything from copper gutters on down. So everything's been done in a first-class manner. So that's why our price is a little higher than normal, and people just have to know what the value is.
That's good. That's good. Well, that would be neat to put on your flyer or the sheet that tells people about the house, you know, the quality of work behind the scenes that you put into this house. I really like that. How do you like the area that you live in?
Right now we're in Sharonville. We're kind of unique. We're 1 mile off of 275, and we got 2 acres, and that's by itself, kind of by itself, and right across from Sharon Woods. So we got a beautiful place there, and there's only one other house on our street. So we kind of got the best of all worlds at this point, kind of right between I-71 and I-75. So I think that's another major plus getting this thing sold.
You know, that's a good point. And tell me about Sharon Woods. You mentioned that a couple of times. Tell me what do you love about Sharon Woods?
Sharon Woods is across the street. It has a 2.5 mile bike path around it. It has a lake next to it, so people actually go fishing in the lake. You've got it's multiple places for members to everything from the kids to playground when that thing's opened up, to a pool, to outside play area, to a large park area, a lot of outside facilities where you can actually rent for picnics and everything else too. So 1,000 acres there kind of makes it unique.
Okay, very unique it sounds. That's beautiful. I knew a little bit about the area. However, I haven't spent too much time there, but wow, that's a great selling feature. I agree with it. So let me ask you this. Why do you think your home hasn't sold? I see it's been on the market for 6 months.
Well, being a builder, and actually we had it listed, what it was listed with was a friend of my wife. She does probate law. So it was one of her friends a friend of a friend that was a realtor. So I didn't get involved with it much. And I think it was a lack of pictures and lack of knowledge of what was going on with the house. I don't think any of the key values have been brought up to the top, talking to people in the area.
Did you ever bring that up with the realtor?
I tried not to step on his toes, but it kind of got to the point, like I knew it expired was coming up. Now I wouldn't do that again. Listing agents now, I would either give them a 30-day contract or nothing at all, because if they can't do something 30 days, I can always extend it. But I want to make sure I know what's going on down the road, because we're getting to the point where we don't get a contract the next 60, 90 days. We'll just hang on to it and then move on and get this thing rented. We've had a lot of people offering to rent the place.
I got it. Okay, so let me ask you this. And so it's just you and your wife at this point living in the house, right?
That's correct.
And how does she feel about selling this house y'all have been in for so many years? Gosh, 35 years.
Well, actually, at this point, that all changed about 6 months ago because of the kids and because of the covert thing. So up to that point, everything in the world I've done to it, she loved. We couldn't do any better. Kind of got the best of all with the world, being a 1 mile off the expressway. You got 4 bedrooms, you got 5 bathrooms here. You've got 2 extra outside buildings. You got 2 acres by itself. It's all fenced in with an 8-foot fence. You know, you've got you're in the middle of commercial property with a residential house in it. So it actually, the value goes up because of that also. It can be sold commercially. So there's a lot of pluses that I don't think have been brought up to people.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, so let's go ahead and time out. And I've closed the sharing screen so I can see y'all's faces and then we can talk. Does Greg sound like a typical seller? Yes or no? Yes or no?
Yes.
Colin, this is where y'all participate. Unmute yourself.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, yeah, okay. Me too. Now, let's just take a minute and let's think. Did I work through getting him to know me, like me, and trust me by asking those questions?
Yes.
The questions that a typical real estate agent does is they go right into their launch program of they want to list their house. So have you heard about me? Have you heard about my team? Have you heard about our market share? Have you heard about Keller Williams? Can we sit down at the table so I can go through my 37-step marketing plan to show you how we get homes sold that didn't sell the first time?
Hey, John, can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
I don't want to break your momentum. There just seems to be something missing here. Maybe it's just missing in me, my brain, but what is the expectation of this person that you're going to go see? You never really set up an expectation at all. You never said that I'm coming to, because I may have a buyer or I may can sell it. I mean, it's almost like, what are they thinking? Why are they thinking you're there?
Okay, great question. So in their mind right now, they know I'm a real estate agent, correct?
Right.
And they know that real estate agents bring buyers. They have no clue that their house did not sell. They have no clue that in the back of my mind, I'm thinking I may want to talk to them about potentially being their backup plan if they don't want to go with the same agent. In my mind, I'm thinking, I don't know if I want to take this listing. I don't know if they're flexible on the price. I don't know what their motivation is. I don't know if the house smells like cat pee, and I don't even want to take the listing. You understand? Until I get in the house and see if I want to work with them, I don't even know if I want to take the listing. Whereas most real estate agents, remember, they'll just go see anything, they'll list anything, and then they spend so much time on properties that cannot sell or will not sell because they overprice it or they don't like the people they work with. I want to narrow it down to only work with people that know, like me, and trust me that I want to work with. Does that make sense?
So you don't normally get questions from these people like, why do you want to come see the house?
Not yet. Remember, we got to remember the time. I called them at 7:30. I set an appointment at 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock, I get there. I'm walking through the house. I'm just a realtor. They probably think in their mind, I just want to know about the house. I'm refreshing. Wow, why don't other realtors act like this guy? And I'm just asking questions. And as I'm asking these questions, they are going to start to like me and to start to trust me because that's natural. Now let's go back through it here just for a minute. Let's find out, what did we learn from Greg? Okay, I want to see how good you guys are at remembering and keeping notes, because remember, this is where you get people know you, like, and trust you. So you should remember this stuff, right? So first of all, why is Greg selling? Who can tell me?
Grandchildren.
So his motivation is grandchildren and children. He wants to get closer to them at this stage in his life. He wants to be around them so he can be an influence on their lives, right? Hey, Curtis. Curtis Lucy just showed up. Okay, what else? What else does he want to do?
He's downsizing.
What's that?
He's downsizing.
Yeah, he's downsizing, but that's not really the issue to downsize. Where's he going to move to when he downsizes, by the way?
Out of state.
Yeah, but what specifically is he going to buy? He told
Condo.
me.
Condo.
Condo. Did everybody catch that? Did you write down condo in your notes? Did you catch that in your brain? See, these are things that are important, right? Because now later at the kitchen table, when you're talking to him about selling his house and you bring up these points that he said, he's going to go, this guy's different. He's different than my last realtor. I like this guy. Is this all making sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How many grandkids does he have?
He's got
Ooh.
twins. He's got,
Can't you show me fingers?
Four.
Three.
Gotta speak up, okay?
he's got twins also. He's got twins, right?
Yeah, Tom, I see the fingers. Tom was the first one to raise up 4. You got to say it out loud, unmute yourself. Okay, so he has 4 kids. This is important.
4.
Everybody likes to talk about their kids and their grandkids. Okay, where does he want to move to?
Philly
Close
area.
to Philly.
Philly. Why Philly?
Yeah, the twins live there, and the daughter in Minnesota may move closer to there with her job at some point.
Yeah, where's his other daughter live?
Australia. She works for Google.
There you go. Who was that?
Me, Tom.
Okay, good job. See, this is important. This is how you get people to know you, like you, trust you. How long has he been in the house?
35 years.
And what was his business?
Contractor.
For how long?
40 years.
Okay, this is important. Now, you guys that are sitting there and you go, I didn't catch that. You're not a good listener. That means you're more focused on yourself than you are other people. And I'm not putting you down. However, Curtis brought me on this class today to get you to start thinking, how do you get business right now, immediate income? This is how you do it. Does this make sense?
Yes.
It's more focus on the other person than it is on you. Know, like, and trust, right? Okay, next thing. Tell me about the area. So he likes the house, doesn't he, where he's at? Why does he like the area? Why does he like the house where he's at right now?
He's on 2 acres, so he has one other neighbor on his street. So he's got the, I guess, privacy, seclusion, maybe as the word. I'm not sure.
That park across the street, the walk.
What's the name of that park?
City Park.
What was the name of the park? Come on, guys.
Sharon Woods.
All right, all right. What's good about Sharon Woods?
The walking trails.
Walking trails. Okay, what else? You guys didn't know this was going to be a test. Walking trails, lake. What else?
Yep.
Come on. There was other things.
Did you say the woods?
Fishing.
Yep.
Fishing.
Playgrounds. What else? It's something you do on 2 wheels.
Hike trails.
Bike trails. Okay.
Golf
You got to
course.
visualize this as you're talking to people. You got to visualize this. You got to think about I'm the listing agent, how I'm going to market this home. You know, this is a great area right across the street. Bike trails, lake, woods, walking trails, hiking trails. I mean, you got to get excited and passionate about, oh, this is going to be an awesome house to sit in, right? And at the same time, he's got to feel your passion too, because did the last realtor feel that passion?
Apparently not.
Well, no, he told us not, right? What did he say, Teresa?
Yeah, he said that.
How did they find their last agent?
Friend of a friend.
Yeah, down the line, friend of a friend of a friend.
Friend of who? His wife, right?
Wife.
Lack of knowledge. There was a lack of knowledge. So what are you going to bring to the table? Knowledge, right? Okay, what else? What did he say about the listing agent? What did we learn?
Good.
What's that?
Friend of his wife.
Yep, and just kind of somebody that she knew and didn't know a lot about him, right? Okay, now does everybody get that? So now get all this in your head just for a minute. So now you're going to ask this question. So, Greg, let me ask you a question. What is your next agent going to do that your last agent didn't do? What are your expectations?
My next agent's going to be working with me by myself. My wife's going to take a back seat to it. We already had that discussion, so it's also going to be a 30, maybe a 60-day contract. The agent's going to contact me weekly, at least once a week, with what's going on, what he plans on doing for getting the house sold. We are going to have no one look at the house unless they're pre-qualified to look at it, because we're at the $600,000 range for the house and property. So I want to make sure somebody's looking at it, they can't afford it. I don't want it to be a turnstile operation, people coming and going. That's probably the biggest things to start with. And actually, John, I'm in BNI, so this is kind of like, I mean, VCP, visible, credibility, profitability. I think you're doing all the right stuff. A lot of stuff I haven't done, so I think there's a lot of pluses what you're doing. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. Greg, let me ask you a question. Do you know that even the best homes don't sell the first time that they're on the market?
Actually, yeah. And actually with the agents I've talked to, ones I know have got to know better, 80%, it's like the rest of the world with your own business, anything else, 80% of your time spent with that 20% of the people. So, you don't get the right people all the time. And I'm not worried about I've gone through the MLS and picked out the top agents that done the most. Well, I don't want that because they're usually with a big group of people. So I want that 1, 2, 3 people that might only sell 30 or 40 homes, but my whole business has been on all referrals for the last 40, 50 years. I mean, I built a home, I built $1 million home on a handshake. So I don't want the ones that just listing 85 houses or something like that. I want somebody that knows, like, and trusts me, and also knows something about my house. Going to spend that 4, 5, 6 hours walking through my house, find out I had 50-year shingles. Let me know that I got 2.3 acres, that 8-foot fence, that all 2 acres are sprinkled, and different things that most people wouldn't pick up on.
Sure. Well, Greg, thank you for that. Most people don't realize that, my experience has been a lot of people feel hurt or offended, or they ask the question, what's wrong with my house, when their house doesn't sell. So I just want to make sure I point out that all across America, even the very best of homes don't sell the first time, and it may just take a new idea, a different approach, a marketing idea like the ones that I use that'll get your home sold the next time. Could we sit down at the kitchen table and talk about it?
Yeah, I think I'd be open to that, to see what you have to say.
Okay, great. So now let's back up, everybody, and let's go through the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of listing appointments I've been on over a 10, 12-year period of time. And I want to analyze what Greg just said and what my experience has been, okay? So number one, typically, overwhelmingly, I don't know if it's 99.9%, when I ask the question of what do you expect your next agent to do that your last agent didn't do, most of them go, what do you mean? They don't realize up to this point that, they don't get there's going to be another agent. So I want y'all to be prepared for this when it does happen 99% of the time. If they say to you, well, what do you mean? I want you to say, well, certainly by now, you realize your home is no longer for sale. Now, what do you think that makes them feel like right now when you say that? It's a punch.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, he's left up in the air.
They want to sell their house. And they go, well, what do you mean it's no longer for sale? And you go, well, this morning after I set the appointment, I pulled this multiple listing sheet here and I hand it to them and I go, your home is expired. It's no longer for sale. It's off the market. Now they get angry. So what do you think they want to do when they get angry?
Call their agent.
Want to go right to the phone. I've actually watched them go right to the phone immediately. I'll call my agent right. Whoa. Just, it may take a new idea, separate approach, a new marketing technique, something like I use. Why don't we just sit down? I'm here. Now, remember, I've just spent 20 minutes building rapport with them, getting them to know, like, and trust me. So it's very easy for me to deflect that and to just get them sit down at the table. Now, they're going to want to talk negatively about their agent. Boy, it's going to come out now. It's not just about their wife picked them. I mean, they're going to dump on that agent. And then I'm just going to avoid it because we're all realtors. We all, have an ethics that we work together. And I'm just going to say, I get it. And things happen like that. But let me show you what I do. Let me show you what I do. Here's what I'm going to do. And what do you think I'm going to be doing over the next 20, 30 minutes, whatever long it takes? I'm going to be repeating back to them. We're going to sell your house. We're going to get you to Philly. I have an agent up there that's going to help you with it if you want to. Hey, Debbie, there's my friend Debbie Lattuga. She just entered the room. Kisses to you too. And then I'm going to say, you know, we're going to get you closer to those 4 grandkids. And I know those twin daughters are important to you. And I know that that one daughter, when she moves over from Australia and she moves back in that area and all the kids are together and everything. And I'm just going to keep hitting on that. I'm not going to be hitting on the features of the home. Are y'all with me? Because any realtor is going to talk about being across from the park and the features. Now that's going to be on the features sheet. That's just not how I'm going to build rapport with them right now. It's all about getting them the dreams that they want. I'm building an emotional, whatever you want to call it, I'm building an emotional relationship with them right now, and it's not about the house. Are you guys with me on this? Okay, now let's go back into the screen sharing, and then we're going to move through the presentation a little bit here. So guys, feel free to ask any questions, okay? So we're down here with what do you expect your next agent to do? So we get them to agree to sit down at the kitchen table. So I say something like this, and all this is in your handout. May we sit down, write in sit down. May we sit down so that I can show you how I get homes sold. Now remember, I'm still saying homes because I haven't taken the listing. As soon as we take the listing, this becomes a house. Let me show you how I get homes sold that did not sell the first time. You know, Mrs. Blank, did you know even the best of homes don't sell the first time? If I haven't already said this, this is where you will go through your short listing presentation, keeping in mind all that they told you about what they liked about their home and things that their last agent didn't do. So for example, if you look at the multiple listings sheet and the last agent didn't mention anything about Sharon Woods across the street, and he got so excited when he talked about it, you better believe I'm going to put it in there. If the last agent didn't really mention anything about the owner, it was a contractor for 40 years and put nothing but top quality material in the house, you better believe that's going to be put in there, and you better believe I'm going to bring it up as I'm talking about what we're going to do to market the home. Then what I want you to do is I want you to show them your listing stats. And if you don't have great listing stats, then show them your office listing stats. Now remember this, everybody, the seller wants to know 3 things. All sellers want to know 3 things. If I list with you, John, how long is it going to take? I've already been on the market for 6 months. In fact, that's what Ken brought up. He said, if I give a listing again, I'll probably only be 1 month or maybe 2 months. I'm not going to go through a 6-month listing again, right? So they all want to know how long is it going to take. Number 2, how close to the asking price. In other words, if I list this home at $400,000, will I get $400,000? And number 3, they all want to know how you're going to list their home and not provide any hassles. So you've got to have statistics. You got to have something written out that answers those 3 questions for every seller that you're going to show in every listing presentation, or you're just doing a disservice to yourself, because this is the 3 top things that people are looking for. Now, real quick, how do you prove that if you list with me that you're not going to have any hassles or very few hassles? What would be the one thing I could show them?
Testimonials.
There you go. So I want you to have work on getting as many testimonials as you can. You say, well, John, I'm a brand new agent. You know, I haven't been in business that long. I haven't really sold any homes. I don't have testimonials. Get testimonials from family and friends about your work ethic. Okay. I'm working with Curtis Lucy from AM Cards, and we're putting together some personal brochures that's going to be part of the next class. I'm going to be teaching on personal branding and marketing, and he's going to have that ready to go in the next couple of months. And we're working with some creative writers to help you be able to tell your story, okay? And part of telling your story is having testimonials. Okay, how close to asking price? All right, so this is real simple. You want to work at selling your homes as close to asking price as possible, because that's the key to your success. So if you can sell, if a home is listed for 400, you sell it for 400, you sold it for 100% of asking price. That's way better than saying that the board average is 96%. So I'd want you to have a stat that shows the board average is 96%. However, your average is 100%. That's 4% better on average. 4% of a $400,000 home is $16,000 more. Does everybody get that?
Mm-hmm.
You've got to show them that, because then if they ever come back and say, well, will you cut your commission? You go, no, absolutely, I will not. Let's go back to the stats there. How long will it take? If the board average is, let's say in your area is 45 days and your average is 15, that's a difference of 30 days. Now, 30 days doesn't sound like much, but 30 days on a $400,000 average carrying cost is almost $5,000 per month. So you're saving them $5,000 there plus the $16,000, you're saving them $21,000 by listing with you, based on averages and based on past performance. Does all this make sense to you guys?
Yes.
Yes.
You're giving them printed material of all this?
What's that?
Are you giving them printed material
I
for all
don't
of
give it
this?
to them. I show it to them and let them look at it. And I let them just ponder it and stare at those testimonials. Sometimes they'll just flip through page after page of testimonials. And I have a book of testimonials because I've gotten testimonials from the very first seller I've had, and I've done my very best, whether I have to buy them dinner or whatever it takes to get a testimonial. In fact, I will write testimonials for people and just ask them to sign their name to it. Seriously, okay, because that's how much I believe in them. Now, separate your testimonials, like have your expired testimonials in one area, and then have your for sale by owners in another area, and then have your, let's say if somebody is a doctor, then have all your doctors or dentists in one area, because see, different groups relate to each other differently, correct? For example, in Sherwin Woods area, if you had about 6 or 7 homes you've sold in Sherwin Woods and the way you market them, then I'd have all those testimonials together. Okay. Okay. Now, pricing the property. Let's get through this real quick. First, ask them what they think that their home would sell for in today's, write in the words, highly competitive market on your handout. Because remember, every market is highly competitive. The minute you take that listing, they've entered into a competition. And you may want to write that down. And I always said in my script, or what I memorized was, now that you've signed the listing agreement, do you realize that you've entered into a competition? You are now competing with all the homes in this price range in this area. Figure in properties pricing. One of the first things I learned as a young real estate agent was just use sold properties. Get to know appraisers. Understand how appraisers appraise property. They don't use what's on the market active right now. They really don't use expireds. What they look at is what recently sold. Get 3 or 4 recent solds that are comparable. Act like you're an appraiser. Learn as much as you can about pricing property as you can using recent sold properties. If there's not enough recent sold properties in your area, expand that area just as a circle. Just make that circle get a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger using comparable properties. Now you can still show them expireds. Just don't put a lot of emphasis on expireds and active listings. Put, just like an appraiser, put most of your emphasis as you're talking to them on sold properties. Next thing, always give them a price range. So Mr. and Mrs. Seller, now that you've looked at these sold properties, which are comparables, what price range do you think your home would sell for? And you give them a price range of like 240 to 250. Here's what I do, the little technique, and I know that Curtis and Debbie have seen me do this. Just draw a square on a piece of paper, write 3 numbers in there. So let's say the top number in the square is 250. The next number is 245. And the third number is 240. Real big, like you're using a magic marker on a full piece of paper. You hand that piece of paper to them and you say, based on the comps that I just showed you today, what price range do you think we should put your property in? Or what price do you think we should market your home for? Most people will look at the box, 250, 245, 240, and they will pick a number in the box because most human beings don't think outside the box. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Now, let me just say this. Most of you are probably sitting there and you go, well, how does Prescott know this stuff? How is he so sure? I had a guaranteed home selling program for 4 years with billboards, TV ads, everything said, your home sold in 120 days, I'll buy it for cash. Now, in my area, 140 days was the average days on the market. My average home sale was less than 100. It was actually around 90. So making that statement on a billboard saying your home sold in 120 days was powerful in my area. And this was back in 2009, 2012, 2013. It was very powerful to have a billboard that said that, right? So I know that if you price it right the way I'm teaching you, you will get these homes priced to sell the first time. Okay.
John, what do you do, Greg? What do you do if that's listed for $299? You come back to that 240. How do you respond to them on that?
Well, I'm not going to take the listing, first of all.
Okay.
So if the home is truly 240 to 250 and they say, well, we want to do 299. Now, remember, keep in mind this crazy market we're in right now, where you list a home for 335 and you get it priced $132,000, or it sells for 132,000 more than 335. My question as a coach would be, did this agent price it correctly the first time? The answer would be no if he got 132,000 more than 335. So you got to know, yeah, I'm in a market right now where everybody's multiple offers and the average person gets a home for $40,000 more than list price. Well, list price is now $40,000 more.
Right.
And now, will it appraise? Well, no, it's not going to appraise. And people all over the country are bringing cash to closing, aren't they?
Absolutely.
So again, that's all part of this pricing strategy, right? Always let them pick the number. And here's to answer your question, the 299 versus the 250, never go 5% over the market price that you'll think it's sell for, unless there's high motivation. For example, if there's high motivation and like they have to sell because the husband's got a job transfer, the wife's got a job transfer, and they won't list it for 290 and the most is 250, and they sign a 8-month contract or a 1-year contract or a 6-month contract, whatever the case is, I know they're going to have to drop that price because they have to move. Does that make sense? Otherwise, 5% of 250 would be 260, 25, I believe, right? So I might go 262.5 or 262, but I'm not going to go much more than 5% ever. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Any questions with pricing the property?
I've got one, John.
Sure.
So the strategy of putting a price well below the market and having the market push it up. What are your thoughts on that?
It's a great strategy if you know how to do it well. Again, it goes back, let's go back to my nephew that listed that house for 335 and it sold for 132,000. I told him, I said, hey, Chris, I'm very proud of you. I said, was that your strategy? And he goes, no, he goes, that was market price based on what recently sold. And I said, yeah, but again, so many people are getting way above asking price. If you went and listed the house today, what would you list it for? And he goes, well, I wouldn't list it for 335. I said, what would you list it for? And he said, well, probably 435. And I said, okay, well, now you're getting closer to market value. You see, again, we can't just look at the numbers on paper based on 3 homes that sold 2 months ago when the market was it was not near as hot as it is today, right? Is this making sense to everybody?
Thank you. Yes.
Okay, good. All right, so now what we're going to do is do all that you promised. Now, before we get to this section here, I'm going to give you guys a quick little break. I think Curtis is going to come in here and talk to you guys, and then I think he's going to introduce Curtis Another guy, a good friend of ours from AM Cards, just a dear friend of mine, he wrote a book, a very great book on gratitude, and I just love it, appreciation marketing. So I'm going to let you take it away. If anybody's got to use a restroom, this would be a great time. Take a quick restroom break, get a cup of coffee or whatever, get right back. And let's hear from Curtis and stop hearing from me for a minute, okay? So Curtis, Tirey, take it away, my friend.
Well, I actually think you did a great job introducing my brother from another mother. Same name, awesome guy. Curtis Lucy, AM Cards. Why don't you go ahead?
Awesome. Thank you. Can I share my screen right now?
Sure you can.
Available? Okay, perfect. Here we go. Well, welcome everybody. I'm saying hello from Brazil right now. I'm in the northeast of Brazil, heading back home today. And thank you for the opportunity to share AM Cards. I'm going to share with you, this is a little secret weapon for building relationships, also for FSBOs and expireds. So I'll have a couple cool stories for you. Anybody out there that using AM Cards right now, you want to put in the comments, I'd love to hear from you. I'm sure that we probably have a few that are on the call here today using AM Cards. For those of you that don't know, let me go over this real quick. I love this quote. It's not what you say, it's not what you do, it's how you make people feel. So with AM Cards, AM stands for appreciation marketing based off of the book that I wrote years ago. And I'm going to send a card. So I'm going to design it, click send, and then we'll print it, stuff it, stamp it, and mail it out tomorrow. And we have the ability to mail cards anywhere in the world. So we click a card here. I like this one right here. At first, they'll ask why you're doing it, but later they'll ask how you did it. So I'm going to send this card to Curtis right now. There's the front of the card. On the inside of the card, I'm going to click images. And because we are officially friends, because we're friends on Facebook, I stole a picture off of his Facebook and I throw it on the inside and then type a little message in there. And thanks for allowing me to share AM Cards. Keep on rocking. And I appreciate you, Curtis. Put my signature in there. Now notice you can also brand the back of the cards however you want them. You can put your own information on there and remove our logo off of it. Here's an example of an agent in South Florida. We did our branding a couple of years ago, put it on the cards. There we have also gift cards that you can add to the cards as well. We'll put the physical gift cards inside the card and mail them out for you. Amazon, Starbucks, and of course we had delicious gourmet fudge brownies. So of course I attached the box of 6 gourmet fudge brownies for Curtis, put them in there. We also have a millionaire real estate agent, the one thing, and we just added the millionaire real estate investor as well. So you can send that out as a gift with a card. And just add the address, click on send card, and boom, it's done. We do the rest. And it's all for a couple of dollars a card. So we make it really inexpensive way for you guys to follow up, to stay in touch, and to, especially during these COVID times, this has been an awesome time for people sending cards. You can create thank you cards templates so you can save them. And then you can reuse them over and over again. Like, happy birthday, I appreciate you, thinking of you, congratulations. So you do that. Now I'm going to go over the pricing right now, give you a couple of examples of how you can use it, and then I'll just wrap up. So typically we have $295 one-time business license, and the system is yours for life. $39 a month gives you access to purchase all the cards at wholesale pricing, which is $2 a card. And what we also do is we bonus you 20 cards a month. So included in the $39 a month is we bonus you 20 cards a month that are good for 1 year that you can use them. You can use them for 1 full year. The credits roll over every month for 12 months. You can use your credits to also send the gourmet fudge brownies. You have campaigns that you can send, drip campaigns, personal branding. And my favorite, there's no contracts and there's no commitments. Now, Curtis invited me on here. He knows the power of this. I've been in many of his training rooms all around the country. And so I told him I was going to completely waive the entire $295 setup for any of you guys that would like to get this started. And there's still, I'm going to honor no contracts and no commitments. So understand $39, and I'm going to bonus you 20 cards, and there's no contracts. This is the website if you want to write it down. It's AM Cards 39. Because if you go to regular amcards.com, you'll be paying $295 setup fee. But the $295 is waived. I have a direct link to amcards39.com. If you guys would like to set that up, I have it live for today, so you can do that. Now, amcards39.com waived the $295. Now, here's an example. About 3 years ago or so, I got my real estate license just like everybody else in Florida. And I took a picture of this for sale by owner. and I put a sold sign across it, and I sent it to the absentee owner. They didn't live here. $650,000 listing. And the inside of the card, it said something very simple is, I know what it's going to take to sell your home. Let's have a conversation. He texted me back, and we started a conversation. I got on the phone, and I won this listing 10 days after passing my Florida state exam. So there's a lot of creative ways to use this. And I put his house on the front. It was in my sister's community. I took the picture and I sent it off. So there's another one. We have these cards already in our system. We have a ton of real estate related cards. Like here's a 65 ways to help your home sell faster. What if the expired says, I'm gonna leave it off the market for a few more months, and you want to stay in touch with them and add value? Well, we have these 65 ways. It's broken up over 3 cards, so you can put a drip campaign together. A lot of things that they don't think about, like polish your door handle, paint your mailbox, like little stuff like that. And then we also have, I want another listing off of this one. I sent this one to a for sale by owner, 14 safety tips every for sale by owner needs to read. And so I put these in here, and I did a bunch of research and stuff and wrote up all these. And also from being in bold rooms all across the country, I heard some of these and put these in here. It was like, leave the back door unlocked in case you have to escape. Don't let the kids in the house. Somebody knocks on your door, do not show them the house. Make sure you get all their information. Don't park your car in the driveway because they could block you in case you have to escape. So just all of this kind of fear, which it works. And so I sent this out, and this lady said, my husband let somebody in off the street, knock on the door, saw the for sale by owner sign, and after reading your card, I like your style. So I had the conversation and listed the home and sold it. Actually double-ended that deal. So this is actually kind of a cool thing. We have this in their system too, and a lot of them. Oh, this is a card that I sent the one and only Mr. Prescott. He picked me up in his private plane and flew me from Orlando to, I believe it was up in Atlanta. And this was a year and a half ago or so. And I sent this as a follow-up. So not just FSBOs and expireds. I use this at all occasions to send thank you cards. There was this plane, said thank you, sent that out. And it's just so much fun using it. This is a guy in Louisiana, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, sent this card out to 150 people in his sphere. I'll sell your home quickly and for top dollar, I shit you not. And he had people taking pictures of the card and posting it on Facebook. He actually got 7 contracts in 30 days from sending this card. It sparked so many conversations. He followed up with some phone calls as well. And this card was awesome for him. How about a set it and forget it? Happy home anniversary for the next 3 to 5 years. We can do that for you as well. Thanks a latte, throw a Starbucks card in there. So I'm just going to go over the pricing real quick again. We're going to completely waive the $295 if you'd like to get set up today. It's only $39, and we're going to bonus you 20 cards. It's $39 a month, and the credits roll over every month. If you can also use your credits to send out the gourmet fudge brownies too. So I'm going to do something additional as well. I'm going to also give you my free audiobook for appreciation marketing. So when you get set up, just send us a quick little message. We'll send you the this, and we're also going to send you a couple of gourmet fudge brownies in the mail as well. So I didn't have to pay for a flight to be here today, and I didn't have to pay for a hotel and everything. So I want to go a little bit above and beyond and send the book as well as the brownies. So any questions that you have, Curtis or anybody, and then I want to let you guys get back to your program.
I don't have any questions. I just want to say I appreciate you. Does anybody else have any questions?
I was going to ask about the ink that's used and whatnot. Is it, when you get the card, does it look, mechanical? That's been the problem I've had with some of these types of services, is that the people
I'll tell you what,
on the other end know that they don't.
Great. You can also go ahead and you can grab your iPad, your tablet, and you can write your message too on there as well. So it looks really good.
I want to give a
I'm
shout
very,
out
very
to
happy.
the brownies. The brownies are fantastic. I don't know if you enjoy sweets, but definitely a good gift.
Thank you. Yeah,
The back of the card, Curtis, has your advertisement on it. The back of the card advertises your company, or
completely off. It's on there as a default, and then you can take it off.
Okay.
Actually, part of that $295 gives you the ability to do all the personal branding stuff. I'm waiving that and still giving the ability to completely change every card in our system, and it will have your branding on the back, and we can show you how to do that. Our team is awesome.
And your team's able to help put us through the system, how to do stuff. All right.
Oh yeah, if you want to set up a Zoom call with them or something like that, yeah, they're awesome.
Okay. I did this previously years ago, and it seemed like it was more of a hassle than it was worth. All right, thank you.
Yeah. I think I was it with a different company?
Yes.
Was Send Out Cards by chance?
Send Out Card, correct.
Yeah, I was with them for 6.5 years. I had 13,000 customers. And then after I left, 2 years later, I started AM Cards.
Gotcha.
Yeah, give it a shot. If you want to give it a shot, there's no contracts, no commitments. And I'll tell you what, if you guys get started and for whatever reason you don't like it, just contact me directly. I'll refund you for the first
Some
month.
of those templates that you showed up there are part of the service, because those are great.
They're already in there. There's a link that says real estate, and I have a bunch of cards in there.
Cool.
And we also have campaigns from like Tristan Armato from Lab Coat Agents. So he gave me a whole bunch of like drip campaigns for FSBOs and expired. So we have those in there. And also a lot of the ideas was Mr. Prescott shared with me over dinner one night, and I put some of the ideas in and put some of that stuff in there.
Wonderful.
So yeah, whatever you guys need, let me know. And you get set up and we'll get your brownies out tomorrow if you guys get set up today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We're going to actually be talking about AM cards as part of this expired FSBOs. I used to use Send Out Cards for years. And then when Curtis opened his company, because of my relationship with him over there, I wanted to go with him. So anyways, I'm with AM Cards myself, and I use them all the time, love them. And so we're going to be talking about that in just a minute. Okay, guys. So
Hey, John.
Yep.
John, I want to give one more quick shout out too, and then I'm using the restroom too. So I have a great friend that I reconnected with, and he happens to be with us here. And when I say a great friend, I actually grew up with him. This was about 25 years ago, and he also helped make all this possible. And his name's Ken Martin. He actually spoke up a little bit ago. His name's Ken Martin, and he's with Priority National Title. And I just wanted to give him a hot second to introduce himself and say hello.
Curtis, I can't say enough about you. You know, whenever you bring up that we've known each other for 30, 40 years, it kind of makes these gray hairs a little more meaningful, I guess. But, you know, maybe we need to invest in hair color for men and or something like that. That might make the years go by a little bit smoother. But, hey, you know, our goal, you know, Curtis and I got together recently, and we just want to create collateral for you all as realtors across the country. So, you know, we don't look at it as a local perspective. We look at it kind of as a national way of connecting and bringing something to you that's of value. So again, we own Priority National Title. It's about friendships and relationships. The people that are on here that are our friends, they'll tell you it's part of a bigger family and, you know, just working together. So if you ever need anything, let us know. But for us, it's more about just, you know, working together. And Curtis, I appreciate you and John. Fantastic start to the meeting so far. So thanks for being here with us.
Thank you, Ken.
Okay, guys, thank you so much for that. So here's we go. We're going to jump back into sharing the screen, and we're going to pick up the speed a little bit because we're talking about some things that I think realtors all know we should do, and maybe just some reminders, and then we're going to jump into the for sale by owners. Okay, so let's talk about do all that you promise. Again, this is in your student handbook. So after you take the listing, make sure you congratulate them. So write that in your student handout, congratulate them. Sometimes we get so busy, you know, after taking thousands of listings, it just feels like sometimes I was going through the routine. It was just, you know, I'm going to do 3-4 listing appointments today. That's the only thing I do for the team is I list property. Somebody else does everything else. And it just became very monotonous. Just sometimes I forgot to just really understand how important it is for them. Shake their hand, big smile, congratulate them, and let them know that, you know, they've hired the right agent. Now we're in a competition and we're going to get them to wherever they're moving to, Philly in this particular case. Okay. Remind them that they have now entered into a competition. Always remind them you've entered into a competition. You just got to say this in your head over and over and over again, and let them know that if they are as committed, write that in, committed to selling their home as you are. Now, see, now this is where I would start to call it a house, by the way. If they are as committed to selling their house as you are, you will get it sold in the time frame that they want or they choose to have. Okay. Now, the next thing is staging. I'm a big believer in staging, and I'm not a stager. I don't particularly like to tell people to clean off the toaster ovens and the microwaves and anything else, blenders that are sitting on the countertops. I simply formed a relationship with the staging company. They would come in and they would do a 30-minute consultation for free with the hopes that the sellers would hire them for an hour or 2 hours to come in and actually do the work of removing all the cartoons or crayon pictures or magnets off the refrigerator and going through the house, removing some of the personal pictures or all the personal pictures and boxing them up, so it looks more like a model home. And that was one of the probably the best things I ever did was, and it was probably not until about 2 years into business before I started hiring a stager. And yet it was one of the greatest things I ever did for my business. So again, my staging company also had a photographer that just took incredible pictures, completely filled out, and then make sure that, your sheets, your MLS sheet is completely 100% accurate. I always made a second visit to the seller's home, or either I'd call them and I'd mail it to them, and then I'd go through it line by line to make sure that I had it right. Mainly to ensure to the seller that my attention to detail was so important that I didn't want to miss one thing. And most realtors, by the way, when you go to an expired listing and you say, well, do you have a copy of your multiple listing sheet? The sellers do not have it. So this separates you from other people, which gets them to like you and to trust you even more. Okay. Then I always would have a broker open house immediately. I'd always have cheese and wine and make a big deal about it. And I'd always make it where I'm going to get the most foot traffic from other realtors. So if 3 o'clock on Wednesday afternoon is the best time to have a broker open house, that's when I would do it. I don't know what it is for your area, but Wednesdays at 3 o'clock. Wine and cheese kind of in the middle of the week. Realtors are tired. They've already been working 2 days. They got 2 days more to go before the weekend. And so again, I found Wednesday afternoons around 4 o'clock in the afternoon was a great time to have cheese and wine. And people say, well, John, champagne, always champagne. They say, well, John, that's kind of expensive on every house. Well, hey, if I'm making $12,000 commission, I can sell it in 2 days and not have to carry that listing and keep spending money on marketing. That's a good thing, right? Always call the realtors. You always have 4 or 5 realtors that work the buyers in your area, and they could be with another company. And I'd call Margaret Guerin always and say, hey, Margaret, I just took this listing. She always knew I priced my homes properly because remember, I always sold them for real close to 99% of asking price. So she knew that if she showed one of my listings, it was probably going to sell. So she was going to get paid if she had a buyer looking for that particular home. So there was 4 realtors. They were with other companies, by the way. I'd always call them first. Now, one of the things that Curtis and Debbie and I used to teach all the time is what we call proactively prospecting. And we believe our fiduciary relationship to our sellers to proactively prospect, which means we get on the phone and we proactively prospect to other realtors that have other buyers. And if you're not doing that, you're really missing out on a big part of your fiduciary relationship with your sellers, okay? Don't just put it on the MLS, in other words. Now, remember this stat and please write it down. I know it's in your handout, but this is highlight this, star this, whatever. If you've never heard this before, 14 days, no showings, or 10 showings and no offer, you must get a 5% price reduction. I don't care what your number came out, and I don't care what kind of research or history or science you did with it. If it's been on the market for 14 days and you didn't get a showing, you get a 5% price reduction. If you get a 5% price reduction, you go another 14 days and no showings, you get another 5% price reduction. Okay? Or if you have 10 showings and you don't get an offer, you must get a 5% price reduction. Now, guys, if you don't, then you'll be like those other agents that have expired listings. I had very, very few expired listings in 10 years that I sold real estate. Very few. I could almost name them on one hand. And it was only because the seller changed their motivation and would not drop the price, and there was nothing I could do about it. So again, if you have a motivated seller And you can tell them, according to National Association of Realtors, we've had 10 showings since we reduced the price the last time, and it still is not sold. According to National Association of Realtors, we have to drop the price 5% this month or be forced to reduce it 10% next month. What do you choose to do? And 99 times out of 100, they would just drop it 5%. Sometimes they drop it 10% and just say, let's just drop it 10%. I got to sell the house. Okay. All right. Now, here's another thing. Call them every week with an update. I think, you know, as we said earlier at the beginning of the call, real estate agents have gotten a little bit lazy, and it's typical in any market where it's hot like this and everybody's starting to jump in with the real estate license. We have a tendency to not call them. Remember, we have a fiduciary relationship with those people. You pick a day. Fridays for me has been the best day to call every single week, and just spend some time with them and give them a quick update. Just let them talk to you and let you show them what you're doing to get the home sold. Okay, any questions with do all that you promise? Is this all elementary to you guys, or did anybody take any ahas from this slide?
I have a question.
Okay, sure.
Regarding the pricing strategy and the percentage and whatnot, if you're dealing in the luxury arena and you have a property, similar situation, of course, 14 days is for luxury is probably going to be a little short, but what are some of your benchmarks on luxury, or is it similar as far as price reduction goes?
Well, you've heard of Bell, Colorado, right?
Yes.
That's where we live. And there's $40 million homes up here on the market. And I found that statement to be true up here as well as anywhere in the country. I'll give you an example. I was teaching a class 3 years ago up here and in Bell. And my wife used to be a team leader for a Keller Williams franchise up here for 2 years. And we were teaching a class, and there was this home that was listed for $32 million. And she said, you know, that stat doesn't work in luxury homes. And I go, really? Tell me why. And she says, well, it just doesn't, because, you know, there's not that many buyers in that price range, this and the other. And I said, well, go back to your seller and tell him the stat and see what he says. Well, guess what happened? He dropped the price 10% on $32 million. So then another 10 days, 14 days goes by, nothing happens. She goes back to him again. Now, I was with this girl for 8 weeks coaching her when we were teaching this program called Bold at the time. And so she went back and she did it again. Guess what? He dropped another 10%. Then guess what happens? He winds up selling the house for $25 million. Now, when she listed it for $32 million, she really didn't know if that was a price range. I mean, home prices are going crazy up here, you know, in Bell, Colorado, right? And today they're 50 million, 45 million. It's just nuts what's happened in Aspen and Bell. So here's my answer to you. I would use a script whether I'm listing a $30 million home or a $300,000 home. Okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Now, by the way, rich people, my experience has been people that own $30 million homes, $25 million homes, $20 million homes, they are much more likely to drop the price. When they're done with something, they're done with it. Whereas when somebody owns a $100,000 home and you ask them to drop it 10%, that just wipes out every penny of profit they had. You guys with me? Less flexible. Okay. All right, let's keep going then if there's no more questions. Okay, so next thing, after the sale, always give them a closing gift. I always use Cutco knives. That was always my deal, because then you call it marketing and it's a tax write-off. Whereas if it's a closing gift, you cannot give a closing gift more than $25 unless you're a husband-wife team or you have an LLC, a partnership, and then it could be up to $50, not one penny over $50. So Cutco knives, I'd sell a house, I'd make $12,000 commission, I'd give them a $400 set of Cutco knives, and that was always a great gift. I'd follow it up with a nice greeting card with brownies from AM Marketing. Back in the day, it was send out cards, okay? Change your contact type into whatever database you're using to pass seller, let's say 2021. so that you can pull up a search and find out how many homes you've sold in 2021, who are those people, and you can send them out an anniversary card, as Curtis mentioned earlier. Put them on an action plan to follow up monthly. All of my action plans eventually went to AM cards. So put them on a 12-month or put them on an anniversary campaign, whatever it is, and then it just becomes automatically. They get a greeting card in the mail on their birthdays. They get a greeting card in the mail at the anniversary of the home sale. They get a card monthly. Like my 4th of July card is, and I told Curtis about this, Lucy, is the front of it was a picture of a house, and it says, "I don't want to sell your house." Now, this is like in a greeting card envelope, right? Like a wedding envelope or something. You open it up, there's a greeting card and it says, "I don't want to sell your house." You open it up, and it says, "April Fool's Day. Of course, I want to sell your house. I'm your realtor," right? And then people laugh, and I'd get so many listings based on that one card. Now, that only goes out to my sphere of influence, people that know me. All right. 36 touches are proven to work and get you future business. This is based on research, and we just know it works. So one of those touches could be a greeting card every month. There's usually always a birthday or some type of a wedding anniversary, home anniversary every month. So that could be your second touch. Newsletters, I love newsletters. I think they work great. In my marketing class, I teach about newsletters, how to put them together, how to brand yourself properly. I love newsletters. Very inexpensive, the way I'm going to teach you how to do it in a future class. Then a phone call every single month. I don't care how busy you are, to your sphere of influence, they must hear from you on a monthly basis, in my humble opinion. Now, you can tell me, "Hey, my database is 1,200 people. I can't do that on a monthly basis." Then I just think, well, you're missing out on a huge opportunity, okay? I always believe in a phone call. Now, you don't necessarily have to talk to them. Leave them a voicemail message once a month. Okay. So as I say on bullet point number 4, call every month. A greeting card, AM cards is who I use, or sold, or a postcard, or market update card. By the way, market update cards are one of the best things you can do. It's like to your farm, your geographic farm area, and to your sphere of influence. An update card, market update card, is one of the best things you never send, because it's a miniature CMA that they're getting all the time. Very miniature CMA. Okay. Always congratulate them on the home sale. Once the home sale, some of your future best friends from expireds and FSBOs, by the way, will become your past clients. Always get testimonials. Always stay in touch. Always develop that know, like, and trust relationship. Okay, now this concludes the expired part. So I'm going to take 2 or 3 questions before we jump into for sale by owner. So I'm going to bring you guys back so I can see your handsome, beautiful faces. Debbie, I miss you.
Miss you too, John.
I haven't seen my team in so long. I miss you guys. Anyway,
Got to get the band back together.
I know, for something. Hey, listen, guys, what do you have? What are your ahas, or what questions do you have? And by the way, there's 33 participants on here, and I'm only seeing 16. So I guess about 16 of you guys are not showing your video. And I'd love to see all of your videos, and I'd love for you to open your mics if you don't mind, just so we can, this class is all about you guys today. So please unmute yourself and let's talk. What were your ahas so far? Thank you. I see a lot of people coming on. Thank you.
Well, for me, it's just the way that you're approaching the expires. You're really just getting yourself into the door so that people can see you're not some used car salesman, and you're creating that relationship, which in turn is probably having a very high success rate of, getting the listing. So just the approach of it is a lot different than what I've heard in the past.
Does it, thank you for that. Let me ask you a question, James. Does it seem simpler, easier to do than what you've heard in the past?
Yes.
Okay. Hey, by the way, what is the downside of what I taught you today? What's the negative? What's the downside? This can be for anybody.
There is no downside. You just have to actually do the work.
Well, there is a downside. There is a negative. There is a downside to what I taught you today.
Regret if you don't do it.
Regret if you don't do it. I love that.
You have to get out of bed earlier.
You have to get out of bed earlier. Oh, I didn't think about that. See, I'm old, so I get up out of bed early anyways. I can't wait to get started. My problem is calling too early.
John, I would say the one thing that I see is just going out to the properties a little bit blind. I mean, I will say obviously your process is exactly like mine or very, very similar, with the exception of I like to drip on them quite a bit, have them get to know me and my wife, that we work as a team before we go out to the property so they know our intent. But and that stems from we're all busy. So driving out to that property, got me a little bit spooked, but also I think your front end script of getting out there is the key. Getting belly with these people and then turning it on, presenting is really the way to win these things,
Yeah, so Kirk, you nailed it. That's the downside, everybody. That's the side that maybe you were thinking about and you didn't bring it up like Kirk did because the opportunity I gave you. I want you to think about it like this. I've got a friend of mine. His name is Rusty Johnson. He works for Keller Williams. He used to work for Remax, and he's in Columbia, South Carolina. He was my mentor, by the way. He was a $13 million producer when I first got my real estate license in North Carolina. He took me under his wing. He mentored me. In Columbia, South Carolina, compared to Brevard, North Carolina, I would get 3 listings expireds a day, maybe 1. He would get 45 a day. Now, I'm sure in proportion, those numbers are like Brevard is getting 1 to 0 a day right now in this hot market, and Columbia is probably getting 30 a day. But Columbia is big. It's like Dallas. It's huge. It's a huge, huge area. For Rusty to identify the one property and then go see it would not be the best for him in a time production manner. However, the thing you can understand about Rusty and me, our personalities are totally different. I am very much more of a fisherman. In other words, I'll go out there and I'll cast the lure. I'll slowly pull it in. I'll wait for a bite, and I'm very patient. If I can produce 1 listing a day, that's 5 a week. That's 20 a month. If only half of them sell, that's 120 sales a year. That's the math. Rusty is very script oriented, very smart guy, very in your face, high D. He would use the scripts. He would just bang through those 40 calls. And if he came out, he already pre-qualified them. Does that make sense, everybody? Like they knew he was showing up to take that listing. He may not always get the listing, but that's how he weeded through the 40 expireds. I didn't have that luxury of having 40 expireds. I think if I was in an area that had 40 expireds, I'd still do it my same way because that's my behavior. That's my personality behavior. I'm not an in-your-face type guy. I'm like, hey, can I help you? If you say no, I say, okay, fine, next. Because there's enough people out there that want to have help. Now, Debbie, you and Curtis worked with me for years. You know me personally. Am I kind of like that?
100%.
So it's not my personality to use these real scripted scripts like so many of you guys are being taught and just bang through numbers. I like developing relationships with people that last for a lifetime personally. Does that help you guys?
Yes.
Make sense? So if you're anything like me, you're going to find my system much easier to do than some of these other seminars you go to, like Mike Ferry, Tom Ferry, that just here's a script, just get on the phone, stop being a wimp, do it, right? So you get a choice today. And that's the reason Curtis brought me on for you guys, okay? All right, let's go. Let's get back to, and nothing wrong with Mike Ferry, Tom Ferry either. They're good guys. There's just a different way of doing it. Okay, so let's go back now to FSBOs. And now we're going to go a little bit faster because there's going to be a lot of repetition here, and I'm going to get you guys out on time. So first of all, here's what I want to do in your notes. For sell-by owners, how are they different? Number one, they believe in their hearts that they can sell their home themselves. So write in the word themselves. Now, somebody tell me, why do you think this is? Why do for sale by owners think they can sell the homes themselves?
So some of them have quite a bit more confidence, I would say initially in selling them their houses. Most of them have a negative connotation of realtors. And then the third one, of course, is pretty obvious, is the market's just incredible right now.
Sold one by themselves in the past.
Yeah, both of those answers are right. All four of those answers are right. And the one thing y'all are missing, we live in a do-it-yourself society. There's Home Depot and there's Lowe's on every corner. And Lowe's and Home Depot for years have taught us all that we can put our own backsplash in, we can lay our own carpet, we can paint our own houses. We don't need professionals to do it. We can do it ourselves. They also say, get a for sale by owner sign, stick it in your car, put it in your house. It's easy to do.
Yeah, John.
So that's the reason I think a lot of them do it. Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
I think there are some people out there who don't have a clue. They just don't know what it's going to take to do it. And so they don't have the background, but they know that homes are selling very, very quickly. They don't have a clue as to what really needs to be done. So they just think it's a piece of cake until they fail.
Yeah. And how many of them fail? What percentage would you say fail?
87%.
Oh yeah, at least 90%, I would say.
94%. Write that down. 94%.
Is that true even in this low inventory scenario?
It is, because again, just like what Teresa just said, they're not good negotiators. Curtis, you and I talked about this last night. What are some of the challenges that for sale by owners have right now?
So it's funny you brought that up, right? We traditionally think that, they've got these certain reasons. And I think our market, because it's moving so quick, has presented other challenges, right? There's safety concerns. You've got their phones are blowing up. How can they handle even all those showings, right? From the listings we're taking, we're getting, multiple offers. How do they know which one's the best one to pick? And what about do they even know anything about there being problems or issues with appraisals and people getting financing and so on and so forth? So even more opportunity or challenges today than I think there was even before, or what we might have thought was before.
Now, and the danger, quite frankly, the danger of them letting somebody in the house that they don't even know who the person is. I mean, the safety factor alone, right? So. Yeah. Here's another thing I want you, thank you for that, Curtis. Here's another thing I want you to write down is how long does a for sale by owner usually attempt to sell before they list with a professional agent? It's 6 to 8 weeks on average, even in this hot market. It's 6 to 8 weeks because a lot of times they overprice a home or they don't know how to negotiate. The number one thing I'm hearing, because I still call for sale by owners all the time just to talk to them and make sure my teaching is still correct, is I'll say, well, when can I come by and take a look at the house? And they go, well, we're getting ready to go out of town. We won't be back for 2 weeks. Right? And you're like, okay, well, do you want to sell your house? Well, yeah, we want to sell it, but we're going on vacation, so we don't want to do it now. Or, well, can I come by and see it this weekend? No, this weekend won't be good for us. We're going out in the boat. I mean, if you guys test me on this, call for sale by owners and just talk to them and just listen to the answers you'll get, right? It's just fascinating. Number 3, what is the best way to build a relationship? You guys tell me. Call them, email them, snail mail them, or stop by and see them.
See them.
Stop by and see them. If people break, well, yeah, but we're in a pandemic and, people don't want you to come by and blah, blah, blah. And I go, I don't know. I would still go knock on their door. I'd wear my mask. I'd back away from the door 2 foot, 3 foot, if that makes you feel good. They're still going to open the door. Remember, they got a for sale by owner sign in the front yard, more than likely. They want to sell their house. They realize they're going to have to let somebody come in and look at their house. Why not you just stop by? Nothing is better than stopping by and seeing them. So what do you do, John? Well, here's the action plan. Glad you asked. Number 1. Stop by immediately. As soon as somebody tells you there's a for sale by owner sign on 123 Grove Street, always drive down different streets. Look in the newspapers. Go to forsalebyowner.com. As soon as you realize there's a for sale by owner somebody, I want you to go by and see them. Then every Monday afternoon, I want you to go by and see them again. Now, we're talking about stopping by. We're not talking about email and calling, phoning. I'm talking about every week you go by and see them. Every week you hand them something of value, something that will help them. However, will not help them sell their house. Always ask them, how did your open house go this weekend? Then always give them that thing, that something of value thing. Any questions so far? Why do you guys think Monday is the best day to go see a for sale by owner?
Day after the open house.
The open house on Sunday.
They're frustrated. The house didn't sell this weekend. Or either they did have an open house and a bunch of people came by and half of them were realtors, right? So what you want to do is you always want to stop by and say, hey, I was in the area last week when I was here. I noticed you didn't have blank, so I wanted to give you this blank. Okay.
How many Mondays have you gone by the same house before you got the listing?
So for about one house, Mr. Leary in Conistea Falls gated community, I stopped by his house every single week for about 12 weeks in a row. Then I went to about every other week, and then I went to about once every month. It took 1 year before I finally listed the house. One year. And I never gave up. Okay.
He never told you to stop coming by?
No. We became friends. Every time I come by, I couldn't leave. He always wanted to come in and have coffee with him or dinner, and I couldn't leave. Mr. Larry, really, I got to go now. He was
sometimes you get to a
at one point I thought I was going to hire him as a real estate agent because he was just sucking so much information out of me.
I've created those relationships.
Raymond L. Leary, I'll never forget him. Okay, go ahead. What?
Sorry, the delay. I would say when I made FSBO calls regularly, I would get a relationship with the person, and they get to know you. You call so many times, and then one time I called this guy Eric and said, so he just was kind of proud he could do it himself, right? And he just wasn't doing it. So I said, Eric, are you ready to have a professional take over? And he went, yes, okay. So it worked.
Well, what Mark is saying has been my experience. You don't say that the first week, probably. However, about the third or fourth week, depending on your relationship, and some people will just warm up to you quicker than others, right? And once you realize they warm up to you, like this doctor that I have, and I believe it's in my PowerPoint presentation this morning, he was a doctor, and he said, this is harder than I thought. And he liked going out on the weekends on his boat, and he couldn't because I told him he's got to do open houses every weekend. That's the only way he's going to sell his house because he's not on the MLS. So he said, this is harder than I thought. And I said, well, I can't imagine being a doctor and then being a realtor at the same time. I mean, I'm a full-time realtor and I spend full-time doing this. I can't imagine being a doctor on the side. And he laughed and he goes, I get the point. Why don't you just go ahead and list my house? And I said, how about if I don't list it and just sell it? He goes, that would even be better. And that's what I did. 2 weeks later, it was under contract because that's what we do for a living, right? Okay, so for sale by owner items of value, I thought maybe somebody would say, well, what were those items, John? So here they are, okay? Now, this is John Prescott's items of value. They may not be yours. What I want you to do is come up with a minimum of 8 items. These are mine. I always give a residential property disclosure. It must be generic. It cannot have your company letterhead. You can get them from a title company. You can get them from a attorney. You just don't have anything on there that's from you or your company because you don't have an agreement with them yet. So according to our board rules, we're not supposed to be passing out our stuff until we have an agreement and they're ready to sign, okay? Number 2, so I'd stop by week number 2 on Monday afternoon. I'd say, because last week I was here, you didn't have residential property disclosure. When I asked for it, you probably don't have lead-based paint. I don't care if the home was built 2 years ago. I know what lead-based paint is. I've done the research. I've done the study like y'all have. I still give it to them because it's knowledge we had to learn when we went through real estate training. So it's knowledge they should know too. Week number 3, I give them a market update, which is the number of homes sold, percentage to asking price, days on market, okay? Week number 4, I give them radon disclosure. Now, even when I lived in Miami on an island called Mystic Point in Aventura, I would still give a radon disclosure. If you read what the government writes, if you go to radon.gov and you read, it'll scare you to death. Again, I just give it to them because they want to be a realtor. Okay, I'm going to give them all the real estate stuff that we know. Okay. Number 5, I give them week number 5, I stop by on Monday, I give them all the contracts and all the addendums. When I worked in Florida, that was a total of 26 pieces of paper stapled together, a generic version again. Okay. They would look at all that stuff and they go, you mean I'm going to need all this? Well, you may not need it all. You may need parts of all of this. I don't know if you're going to need every single paper. And the next question they would always ask me, well, do you know how to read all this stuff? I mean, you got to be an attorney to understand. I go, well, actually it was written by attorneys, and yes, you do. And yet I do know how these contracts are. I understand every one of them. So you can either hire an attorney or you could hire me to help you. And by the way, it doesn't cost you anything to hire me to help you if the home doesn't sell. Okay. The next thing is polybutylene plastic pipe, 1978 to 1995. I don't care if the house was built in 2014, I'm still going to give it to them. Why would I give them, if their house was built in 2014, why would I give them this piece of paper on polybutylene plastic pipe only for homes built between 78 and 95? Knowledge. What if a buyer walks up to him and says, does this home have polybutylene plastic pipe? What would the average person say? I don't know. I don't know. What's that? See, again, these are items of value. If you want to be a realtor, Mr. For Sale Owner, I'm going to help you get there.
It's also a way of making them think, gosh, what else don't I know about my house?
It sure is. That's a good point. Great point. One of our agents at Keller Williams put together a brochure, and I think the only way for you to find it today is you got to Google the following words: 20 things you may need to know. And you should be able to find the flyer because it's on the internet. Once it goes on the internet, you know, it never goes away, right? But it was a great flyer. And so I started copying a flyer very similar to that. Hers was actually better than mine. So I started teaching you guys how to use it, okay? So it's not something you can download, but it is a PDF and you could go build your own. Okay, I just thought it was beautiful. Here's another one, Chinese drywall. Some of you experienced it if you were in the business long enough, title company, mortgage, whatever, you know what Chinese drywall is. Google the words health problems, percentage, property damage disclosure. Just Google those words and you'll read an article. You got to put Chinese drywall in there. So Google Chinese drywall, health problems, property damage disclosure. And you'll find a whole story about Chinese drywall and how we got into that mess in the first place. Then what you do is you just kind of, that would be the handout that you would give them to read. Okay. Now, what would be something you probably would not want to give them as you build your own 8 items?
A list of how to help them sell their house.
Yeah, a flyer, brochure, the 47 tips to get your house sold faster as a for sale by owner. You know, sweep the sidewalk, paint the front of the house, clean out your kitchen, blah, blah, blah. That all, you give them that brochure. I love that brochure. It comes from the Gooder Group. You give them that brochure after you list the house, not before.
I don't think I'd give them the working with real estate agents brochure yet.
Okay. All right. What else? Well, let me stop before I go any further because I was on the ethics board and I was a president of the board for a while. Doesn't it say that working with realtors on first substantial contact, you have to give it to them in Florida?
Yeah, North Carolina too.
Yeah, so I think you have to do that by ethics, okay? Every state in the United States. So I'd be careful with that. See, when I go over and see somebody and I have any type of discussion, if they start getting into anything about why they're selling their house, I must stop them and say, before you go any further, I have to give you this brochure.
That's required in Florida as well.
Yeah, I knew it. I think it's every state in the United States, by the way. I think it's a NAR rule. Okay, let's move on. All right, so now here's the script, initial visit. So this is the first time I go by and see him. Good morning, good afternoon, or whatever time it is. Thank you for answering the door. Remember, it's a for sale bonder. They got to sign the front yard. I knock on the door. Thank you for answering the door instead of thank you for taking my call. Thank you for answering the door. Are you the homeowner? Why is it important that I ask, are you the homeowner?
You want the decision maker.
You want the decision maker. This could be a renter, right? I don't want to go through a full-blown presentation and find out I'm talking to a renter that, you know, doesn't want to sell the home anyways. I see, point to the for sale buyer sign in the yard. I see that you're selling the home yourself, and I'm a local real estate agent or a local real estate professional from Keller Williams Realty. You must do that according to ethics. Okay. Then you say, my name is John Prescott. May I take a quick look at your home? Now, I'm telling you guys, 90% of the time, they would just say, sure, come on in, take a look. Sometimes they would say, yes, you can come in, take a look, but I'm not listing with an agent. Or yes, you can take a look, but I'm not paying a commission. They would almost always let me take a look at the home. Now, here's your script I want you to memorize with for sale boners. Let's all read it together. It's in quotations. You see, I intend to know all the homes, not just the ones listed on the multiple listing service. Don't say MLS, say multiple listing service, okay? Let's say it one more time. Ready? You see?
I intend to know all the homes on the market, not just the ones listed.
Not just the ones listed on the multiple listing service.
Okay, let's do something real quick. You ready? You're going to answer, you're going to say that, what you just said 2 times, you're going to say it to no matter what I say. Ready? I'm not paying a commission.
We see. I intend to know about all the homes on the market, not just
the ones listed on the multiple listing service.
So the only thing I'd say different is I understand, and I'm not asking you to pay attention, pay a commission. You see, I intend to know about all the homes on the market, not just ones listed on the multiple listing service. Okay. What if they say to you, I don't like real estate agents?
I understand. I intend to know about homes.
I understand you don't like real estate agents. I
don't like some of them either.
You see, I intend to blah, 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 blah. Okay. What if they say, let's see here. What would be another one they would possibly say? I'm not going to pay a commission. Oh, I'm not going to list with an agent. Well, you're just wasting your time. I am no way going to list with a real estate agent.
I understand.
I understand.
You understand what?
That you're not going to list with a real estate agent.
And then go on and say.
And yet I intend to know about all the homes.
All the homes on the market and not just the ones listed on the multiple listing service.
There you go. Now, I ran into this a few times where I'd knock on the door, it'd be 10 o'clock in the morning, 11 o'clock in the morning, and a lady would answer the door and she'd say, well, I can't really let you come in the house. My husband has a rule about no men in the house if he's not here. And it'd be kind of funny, right? And she'd kind of laugh and I'd kind of laugh, but I absolutely understand, because I tell my wife the same thing. I don't want some strange guy coming into my wife's house when I'm not there, right? So I would say, you know, that totally makes sense. I get it. I would not want my wife to do that either. What time will your husband be home? We're both of you here, so I could simply take a look at your house. And then I'd set the appointment and come back, okay? If they say they're not paying a commission or they will pay a small commission, oh, there's the other one. Well, listen, since you're a real estate agent, I want to let you know, I'll pay you a 0.5% commission if you bring the buyer. Don't get defensive. Don't argue with them. Don't say anything. Just smile. Just say, okay, I understand you'd pay a 0.5% commission if I brought the buyer. You see, I just intend to know about all the homes on the market, not just the ones listed on multiple listings. So may I take a look at it? That's all. Don't even get into anything yet. You still have got to build know, like, and trust, and you haven't done that yet, right? Okay. And then the script down here in the 7th bullet point, I believe, says simply say thank you, and that's not the reason you're here. State your reason again as above. Now remember, I don't know, have y'all ever had them say to you, anybody ever say to you, I don't like real estate agents? Have you ever had that happen?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes.
Did it throw you off when that happened?
It does.
Did it throw you off?
Yeah.
No, I just say I don't like some of them either.
See, it did throw me off because the reason I got in real estate in the first place, because I had a terrible experience with a real estate agent. And so when the person said that to me, I just laughed. I go, hey, I know how you feel. There's some of them I don't like either.
I love
It
that.
never threw me off, but it does throw some, especially newer agents off. They don't even know what to say.
Well,
Okay.
I have a brother in real estate, and if I was going to list it, I'd list it with him anyway.
That's a great point. And so I say, oh, well, then I totally understand. You'd list with your brother. That makes all sense in the world. So you see, I intend to know about all the homes on the market, not just the ones listed on the multiple listing service. Can I come in? Can I tell you guys something that my mother-in-law had a house for sale for over 2 years. She couldn't sell it. She was a realtor. She had made the Century 21's top real estate club, whatever it was at the time. After 2 years, I would go to my mother-in-law and I say to her, Mom, maybe it just takes a different approach, a new idea like I use. Why don't you let me just take the listing? She goes, well, why would I let you take the listing? I'm not paying you a commission. I go, do you want to get your home sold? And she says, well, yeah, I want to get my home sold. And I said, you're too attached to the outcome. Let me list it and I will sell that home for you. And she thought I was being obnoxious. She thought I was being boastful. She just couldn't believe it, blah, blah, blah. A week later, she said, take the listing. I sold the home in 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. Now, here's my point. Sometimes, like I've sold 2 homes as a realtor, and both times I had one of my real estate agents handle the listing, because sometimes when you're in the middle of the negotiations of your own personal home, it's just not the best place to be. Now, that's just my opinion, okay? Okay. Any questions with any of this so far?
Yes, John, I have a question. So if the woman by herself, who's at home by herself, doesn't want to make an appointment, she'd rather talk to her husband first, okay? How do you handle a situation like that?
I'm always never going to push back. It's not my personality. I just say, I totally understand. I would probably tell my wife to do the very same thing. So talk to your husband. And again, I'm not here to get a listing. I'm here just to see the house so that I know about all the homes on the market, not just ones in the multiple listing service. And may I call you guys back around 6 o'clock tonight, or would 7 o'clock be better?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way I would do it. And by the way, I've had that happen too, and it worked great.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. My pleasure. Okay, now Monday's follow-up. So remember, that was the first script for the very first visit. So this is the week later, and so, every week after that. So good morning, good afternoon, whatever time. So here's another thing I want you to know. For sale by owners, just like all people, they have a tendency to be there at a certain time. What I mean by that is you're going to find a certain for sale by owner, Mrs. Smith, is always going to be home on Monday afternoons at around 4 o'clock. Mr. Jones is always going to be there after work around 6:30. Mr. Leary is always going to be there at 10 o'clock in the morning. You're going to get the feel of when your people are home. Never leave anything. Your goal is to get them to see you. You can't get people to know you, like you, and trust you over time unless they see you, right? So you gotta show up when they're there. So if I go by and Mr. Leary's not there, I'm just gonna go do my business and do other things, and then I'm gonna pop by again. You'll start to determine though when they're home on Mondays. Promise you that. So you're gonna say this. You're going to say, hey, good afternoon, Mr. Leary. Thank you for answering the door. I'm John Prescott, Keller Williams Realty. John, I know who you are. You don't have to tell me that every time you come by. And I'd laugh and I'd say, hey, Mr. Leary, when I met you last week, you didn't have the residential property disclosure. So, I was thinking about you this week, and I thought you may not have the lead-based paint addendum either. And I hand it to him. That's it. I don't ask to come in. I don't do anything else. I know that this is going to be a 6 to 8 week process. And so I'm just fishing. I'm just waiting for them to take the bait. And then I go, oh, by the way, how did your open house go this weekend? They may say, oh, great, it was great, John. I had 5 people stop by. And then I would say, and how many of them were realtors? And they'd say, well, you know, there was 3 realtors. And I'd go, okay, well, they're probably not going to buy the house. And of the other 2, how many of the offers did you get? Well, we didn't get any offer. But you know what? They said they really did like the house. And then I'd say, well, I understand they said they liked the house, but the fact that they didn't give you an offer says that, you know, your house wasn't for them. Okay. If they say they did not have an open house, then I go, ooh, or I go, ouch. Well, how do you plan on selling your house yourself? Now, what do you guys think would happen if you went to a for sale by owner and you go, ouch, well, how do you plan on selling the house yourself? What do you think they might say?
I really won't know what to say.
Well, here's what my experience has been. They'll come back and say, well, if I listed with you, would you have an open house every weekend? I'd say, well, certainly not. However, I will have open houses. And if it doesn't work out in one of the open houses that I'm in, I will send them your way. And don't forget, I'm going to put you on the multiple listing service, which exposes your house to over 4,000 agents in the area. So if I was not a realtor and I was selling my house myself, such as you, I'd be having open houses every weekend. That is the #1 way for you to sell your house if you're not a realtor and you're not on the multiple listing service.
Hey, John.
Yep.
Can we just role play for a minute?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love
Okay.
to.
I'm the seller. Well, you know, the multiple listing service I think is overrated. Anyway, it was John, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, John, because I mean, all that stuff's on Zillow and realtor.com. Plus I have it on for sale by owner.com.
And so your question is that it's just overrated and it doesn't get the job done?
Well, I mean, as far as a lot of the real estate people think that the multiple listing service is the B end of, I mean, I get exposure on the on Zillow.
Well, it's a good point, but are you aware that according to National Association of Realtors, that over 96% of the homes that are sold today are owned by a realtor through the MLS system, through the multiple listing system?
No, I wasn't aware of that.
So yeah, you still got a 4% chance that you could sell this house yourself. However, my experience has been that 2 to 3% of the people put their house on the market and then they change their minds. So that really only leaves about 1.5 to 2% that actually do. So I'm not sure about Zillow being better than the entire multiple listing service from the National Association of Realtors. I'm not sure you got the right data there.
Cool.
That's the way I would answer it. And I'd be very humble about it. Okay. So
Can I make a comment?
Yeah, go ahead.
And also to Mark's point, when you get Zillow people or realtor.com people, I mean, this is just the general consumer. You don't know who you're really dealing with. I mean, you don't know if they're a real buyer, you know, if they're really qualified. I mean, all of those things. But at least if there is an agent involved, which would be coming from the multiple listing service, you know that there's some qualification already done and they're a real purchaser or whatever the case might be. Otherwise, you don't know who you're dealing with.
Yeah.
Good point.
That is a great point. And again, each one of us on the call today, learning from each other, have different behavior personalities. Would y'all agree?
Mm-hmm.
My behavior personality is I am just not gonna be, look, trust me. Those of you that know me know I can be pushy. I can be in your face. I can be the high D. That's not my normal behavior. My normal behavior is not going to get into a defensive, trying my best to teach them something based on stats and everything. Mine is just going to be to lean back and let them push a little bit, no resistance. Because remember, when you push somebody, they're going to automatically push you back. So my behavior personalities go, yeah, well, I can certainly understand how you feel, and Zillow is a great way to do your initial research. Although, and then I would just kind of roll into what I said about the 96%. And then again, if they want to stick to their ground, I just say, well, hey, you know what? It's your home. You're absolutely entitled to sell it yourself, and I wish you the best. So let's go to the next bullet point that I'll leave them with. If you have any questions, Mark, Bill, Mary, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to call me. Now, look what I said here. I'm here to what?
To serve our community.
Everybody understand, this is my closing point to everybody. I'm here to serve our community. I'm not here to serve you. I have no relationship with you. I'm here to serve our community any way I can. So if you have any questions, so people call me all the time. They go, John, we got a buyer. They want to come over and I don't have a contract. And they said they don't have a contract. What do I do? You know, I get questions like that all the time. I'm here to serve the community. So I
love that one.
Yeah, well, it used to happen all the time. So yeah, make that part of make that part of your vocabulary. The last thing you do is say, as you leave is, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to call me. I'd give them a business card or a personal brochure every single time that I left them, over and over. And I'd say, I'm here to serve you. Because I know most of the time I give them a business card, they throw it right in the garbage, right? So every time I give them another business card, I'm here to serve our community. Now remember, what is our goal, everybody? Last bullet point.
Get them to know you, like you, and trust you.
That's right. And by the way, that goes the same for you. People that you buy from, like AM Cards. The reason I love AM Cards is because I love Curtis Lucy. I love that book, Gratitude Marketing, Appreciation Marketing. I love it. It's all about gratitude. I love Curtis Tirey. We work together. He's like a brother. Debbie Lattuga, I would do anything for her. There's a lot of people I wouldn't walk across the street. I wouldn't do anything for because they don't love them. So you are just like everybody else. You've got to get people to know you, like you, and trust you. Okay, now let's go to the next thing. So 6 to 8 weeks on average, it usually takes 6 to 8 weeks. Now, how do I know this? From the thousands of for sale by owners that I've visited over the years. From the time they put the sign in the yard, that's when the clock starts ticking. If they have started, telling people or running an ad 2 weeks before, I don't really think that's valid. It's when did you put the sign in the yard? So I'm always going to say, so when did you put the sign in the yard, the for sale by owner sign in the yard? That's when that 6 to 8 week window starts to tick for me. For sale by owner to decide that it's too much work and then list with a professional real estate agent, it's 6 to 8 weeks. So write that in your blank there, if you will. Stopping by every Monday is the key to your success. I cannot tell you the hundreds and hundreds of agents I've coached on this around the country that violate this rule. And they go, well, this doesn't really work. And I'll say, well, what do you mean it doesn't work? And they go, well, this FSBO listed with another agent. And I go, okay, well, tell me the process. And inevitably, the process breakdown is they go see them the first time, then they start calling them on the phone because they're lazy. The only way this system will work is if you're willing to do a little extra work and stop by every single week. The key, the golden sauce, or whatever you want to call this, the secret sauce, is you got to make face-to-face every Monday. Okay? Does everybody get that?
I do now.
Now, trust me, this system, I cannot say how it will work for you if you go by and see them one time and then just start mailing them stuff or start calling them, because somebody like me will come along that'll be willing to go by every single Monday and will take that business away from you. Okay.
I'm going to tell you something, John. It sounds over the top to me because I think of myself as a for sale by owner, which I have been in the past, and somebody coming every Monday just seems over the top, but I'm going to do it because you said do it and you have the experience. I'm going to see what happens.
Well, test me on this, Marcus, and I appreciate it. And somebody else brought up on the call earlier today, and it's a good point. What happens is, in she or here, I forget who it was, said they saw for sale by owner for 3 or 4 weeks, and then all of a sudden they just kind of broke down the resistance and they were kidding around with them. That's what happens, Marcus. They don't say, hey, you were here last week. Are you going to come by every single Monday and drop me off something? I mean, I don't know. It's never happened to me in the thousands of for sale by owner appointments I've seen over the 12-year period of time or something. But I will tell you that it gets to be real fun after about the 3rd or 4th week. I mean, if somebody said, are you going to come by every week and give me something? I say, yep, probably. That's my system. And that's, by the way, when I take your listing, when you eventually list with me, I'm going to have a system for that too. And I'd laugh. If they said, can't you give me
Have you
everything
ever-
at one time? I'd probably laugh about it and say, no, it's not part of my system. My part of my system is check on you every week. I mean, it starts to be fun, Marcus. So have some fun with this.
So John, you're also
I've made the
prepping,
mis-
Go ahead, Granley.
you're also prepping them that you're going to stop by the following Monday though on your initial appointment, right? You're kind of leaning that way, so you're not just popping up, correct?
They don't know it. No, they don't know it. Very few people. I think 1 in 1,000 would maybe that's 5 in 1,000 may say, I'm starting to determine a pattern here. Every Monday afternoon at 4 o'clock, you stop by.
No, I meant you. Do you like, so you go in your first Monday, right? You build the rapport. Do you ever like let them know that you're going to come the following Monday? Are you surprising them every Monday that you show up?
Yeah, it's a surprise every Monday. Now, by the way, just so you don't get this confused, that first visit is not a Monday. That first visit could be on Thursday at afternoon. Somebody calls me and says, hey, John, do you know about the for sale bond on 123 Franklin Street? I get in my car, I go see him immediately on Thursday. Then my second appointment or my second stop by is going to be on Monday. Then from then on, it's always going to be on Monday. But the first one could be any time during the week.
Okay.
Okay, so don't get that confused because I misspoke. All right, now here's another thing. So once you put a for sale bonder in your pipeline, I want you guys to go ahead and do a comparative market analysis and get it completely filled out. Just don't put the dates in it so that each week you stop by, because what you're going to have is it could be 1 week, it could be 3 weeks. I've had 4 or 5 for sale bonders say, thank God you came by on week 1, day 1. And said, I didn't know any real estate agents in the area to call. And I knew if I put a for sale bonder and a sign in the front yard, I would get the most aggressive real estate agent to stop by. And you're the first one that has. That's only happened 4 times, let's say in 1,000, although it happens, right? So always have your CMA ready. The minute you put them in your pipeline, you have your CMA so that when they give you those signs of like, this is difficult, this is hard, I don't know how you can do it. Those are nibbles if you're fishing. If you're reeling in the line like this and you feel a little hit, well, that's a hit in our world. And the minute that nibble happens, you strike. Now remember, in fishing, you don't just jerk hard, right? Or you'll rip it right through their little fish lips. So what you do is you just kind of just a little hook, right? So when they say this is difficult or hard, you just come back very nice and you just go, I understand. I can't imagine doing 2 jobs like you're doing right now. Why don't we sit down at the kitchen table so I can show you what I do to get homes sold? Does that make sense, everybody? Identify with them always by stating stuff like, I work full-time and selling homes. I can't imagine working 2 jobs. It's like being a doctor and being a realtor too. Remember I told you about the doctor that I listed his house? Okay. Now let's go to this next slide. Now these are stats. Now, again, my personality is not to ever say these stats to anybody. I just want to be knowledgeable. So if it ever comes up. So this page here, I want y'all to memorize. Number 1, just know these numbers do not make someone ever feel bad or look wrong because you have more education than they do. Okay, please. Bullet point number 1 then, the average for sale owner that sells their own home gets about 18% less money than if they would have listed with a professional real estate agent. Negotiations, current price knowledge, emotions, all those things get in the way. They're pig-headed, hard-headed. They want to prove a point, whatever the case may be. They're not staying in touch with the local market from 1 week to the next. And they wind up getting 18%. Now, where does that come from? Is that something Prescott made up?
NAR survey.
There you go. National Association of Realtors survey. They survey even people that sells their homes through the tax records. Okay. Bullet point number 3, 94% of all for sale owners will, not may, will list with a professional realtor eventually. Now, keep in mind, if it's 94%, it doesn't mean 6% sell it themselves, because there's always that 2 to 3% of any time they work with a real estate agent, put it on the market, and then they pull it off the market, right? Now, especially bullet point number 4, I want you to know this, and I want you to read this story, and I want you to get this in your heart and in your head, yet I don't want you to go out there pushing this story off on people on week 1. You could push it off on them on week 4 when the doctor says this is hard, and you're identifying with him by saying even the owner of ForSaleByOwner.com couldn't sell his own house. So let's read this together. Even the owner of ForSaleByOwner.com listed his home with a realtor and made $150,000 more than he had listed himself on his own website, ForSaleByOwner.com, for several months. Here's the story that I'd like for y'all to Google and then print out and read it. Google ForSaleByOwner.com founder sells condo - using real estate agent. The article was August 17, 2011. The home sold for $2.1 million. It was a condo in Manhattan. The seller was Colby Sembrato. He was the founder owner of ForSaleByOwner.com. Great little read. He sold the house. The realtor sold Colby Sembrato's condo for 7.5% higher. Question to you guys is, did this realtor pay for himself? He took a 6% commission. Are you guys there?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so did the realtor pay for himself?
Yeah.
Commission was 6%.
Yeah.
He got 7.5% more money. He got the seller 1.5% more money. He got him way more money than what he had listed for months. So did the real estate agent do its job?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Now, would John Prescott, knowing what you know about me so far today, on week 1, do you think I would ever bring up this issue about the ForSaleByOwner.com on week 1 with somebody that is adamant that they can do it themselves?
No.
No, it'll fall on deaf ears.
Yeah, because they
Afraid
don't.
to hear it.
It'd be like me walking up to somebody the first time I ever met them and just pushing them with my hand.
Got to be a little painful for them.
Well, it'd be like this. Who just said that'd be painful?
Me, Lori.
Lori, if I walked up to you and I've never met you before, and where I would normally walk up and shake your hand, I just pushed you, what would you do back to me?
Push back.
Yeah.
You'd push back, you'd hit me, you'd something. I mean, you'd be shocked, right? Well, there's no difference on week 1. If I walk up to somebody and say, hey, even the best of people, you know the story about ForSaleByOwner? What if I go to somebody and they go, well, we have a list on ForSaleByOwner.com. And then I immediately roll into, well, you know, Colby Sembrato was the owner of blah, blah, blah. And I go through that. It'd be just like me just pushing you. You've made up your mind you can do this. It's not my job to change your mind on week 1. At least everybody, it's not John Prescott's philosophy. Now, you do realize there's other trainers out there would just tell you, get in their face and tell them this and take that listing on day 1. That's just not my style.
Puts them on the defensive.
Yeah, it's just not my style. I don't know what's going to happen. I just know how I would react if I thought in my heart I could do something and somebody told me I couldn't. I just know how I would react, and I wouldn't like it. So I don't do it to other people, right? So here's a funny one. So Dar Walden, she's the #1 agent in Alaska, and she has an area of Wasilla as well as Anchorage. And I was doing a coaching call with her. She's about a $30 million producer. This was years ago, her and her husband, Ed. And she told me, she goes, well, John, I said, do you ever call for sale owners? She goes, John, we don't have any for sale owners. It's different up here in Anchorage. And I go, really? So as she's telling me how different it was in Wasilla and Anchorage, I immediately pulled up ForSaleByOwner.com and I found 21 homes in her immediate area. And I started reading out the property addresses. She goes, where are you finding these homes? And I said, on ForSaleByOwner.com. Now, she was a top agent. She was not afraid to go call on people. She just truly didn't believe there was any for sale owners in her area. Once I coached her on everything I'm coaching you on today, Dar went and took 7 of them over the next 2 to 5 weeks. Once she knew where they were and start going after them, see, she had no reservations about picking up the phone or calling or going and seeing people and using my system that I'm teaching you today. She just didn't know they were there. She became the #1 agent with for sale owners. And if you go up to that area of Wasalla, well, we have a market center, a Keller Williams franchise up there, and you can ask any of the agents in there, don't even go after for sale owners because Dar Walden's going to get them. And she's simply doing one thing. She's following the same system I'm teaching you guys. Okay, now the next thing, sitting down at the kitchen table is exactly like expireds. So we're just going to push through this. There's no changes here. The only difference is in your testimonials down at the very bottom, you want to have a group of for sale owner testimonials. You know, I was a for sale owner for 6 weeks. I couldn't sell my home. John came along, sold it for top dollar and exceeded my expectancy, exceeded my asking price, whatever it is. I just have lots of testimonials there, okay? Pricing the property is exactly the same. There's no difference with expireds and FSBOs or anybody you price properties. Doing all that you promise is exactly the same. There's no difference. Once you list that home 14 days and no showings or 10 showings, no offer, you're going to keep getting price reductions. After the sale, you're always going to get them a closing gift. You're always going to change your contact type in your past seller 2021. You're always going to put them on a 36 touch. I use AM cards. You may use send out cards. You may use a different company. I just found it's the simplest way to do it. I create one greeting card. I attach that greeting card to 300 people. I hit send. I pay a little bill. I take another listing. It's just simple as that. Congratulations. Some of your future best friends from for sale owners will be your past clients. Always get testimonials. Always stay in touch because remember, they have people they can send to you when they know you, like you, and trust you. And now I'm going to open it up for questions. What did y'all think about the for sale owner part of the class today?
It's enlightening.
Okay.
Good.
It was very good for me. I've done lots of calling like that, John, not recently, but and I did the visit period, ad hoc visit here and there, but never on a systematic basis. And it makes so much sense. It seems like I'm really excited to try that in our market.
Well, Mark, your personality, I think, is like my personality. I think you're not a pushy guy, are you?
No, I'm not. I'm very much like you.
Before the class when we were talking, and right now, I think you're more like that. Now, Debbie Lattuga, y'all know Debbie? Everybody know Debbie?
Yeah.
Yeah. Debbie is not like my personality. She could get in your face. Because she used to get in my face when you know she was working with me. So her personality is different. It doesn't make her right or wrong or me right or wrong. It's just we each got to know our own personality. Now, Cedric, you're a top agent from Houston, right?
Yes.
By the way, how's the weather? How's your pipes, your plumbing, everything? You good down there?
Yeah, it's better. Definitely, it was rough last week.
Oh.
Well, hearts out for you and everybody. I guess you've got closings pending, stopping, everything right now. Insurance probably have to look at homes all over again and everything, right? Now's the time, by the way, I'd be reaching out to everybody I know in the Texas area, and I'd be calling, just checking in on them. How are you doing, right?
Correct.
So Cedric, you're like my personality. You're not you're not an in-your-face kind of guy, scripted type of guy. You're more of how may I help you, right? I've worked with you for years, and I know how you are, right?
Yeah.
Now, I want to hear from Ken, though. Ken Martin. Ken, you've been in business for 30 years, so therefore you definitely have the experience. You definitely could be a kind of in-your-face guy if you wanted to be. So which way do you think you would lean based on this class today, Ken?
Help me real quick. Lean on what?
Would you be more of like a scripted, like call and say, you know, when are you going to hire the right agent for the job? Or would you be more like, man, stop by and take a look at your house and get to know you better?
You know what, the thing I love most about just your strategy is the relationship stuff. I'm a relationship guy. I start there and end there. At the end of the day, I want to feel like I got a relationship with the person that's coming to me and engaging with me, whether it be on the title side, whether it be on the mortgage side, or whether it be with the realtors. If you're personal and, you know, myself as an owner, I connect with, how many of you know Chip and Joanna Gaines?
Yeah, I know.
Chip and Joanna on HGTV. I mean, I guarantee every time I speak in front of people, I always bring them up, and people just connect with them because they're a relationship, and you just want to be near them. So again, I love that piece of your presentation. So, you know, the in your face thing, not really a big sell on me. It's the, you know, being the kind of making me feel good, making me feel like we're going to have a lifelong relationship. That would be probably the way I lean.
Well, thank you for that. You know, think about it like this, everybody. You can be a hunter or you can be a fisherman. A hunter goes out, they look for something, they see it, they point, aim, shoot, the animal drops. That's a hunter. Or you can look as a fisherman, they go out, they're very patient, they throw the lure out, they slowly pull it back until they get a nibble. They know they're in the right place, they get a hit, and then they just slowly set the hook. They don't jerk it hard, right? I think you're going to have lifelong clients and friends if you're a fisherman, not a hunter. Okay, make sense? All right, but it's totally up to you. Let me go back to the PowerPoint presentation as we wrap this up then, and we're going to get to the last part. And thank you so much. I know we've gone over time just a hair. I want you to write down some action steps. What have you learned today that you will make money for you tomorrow? Just write that down. You've already told me some things. And then if you're all being coached by Curtis, then please let Curtis know what you want him to hold you accountable to. Because he's not going to force you to do this if you don't want to do it. So just take a moment, write down some action steps. What have you learned today that will make you money tomorrow? And then copy Curtis on that if he's coaching you. It doesn't have to be 3 or 4 things. Just what is the one thing that you learned today that's going to make you money tomorrow? Okay, then in closing, if y'all need to reach me for some reason, my email address is johnprescott@kw.com or either johnprescott@me.com. And I'd love for you to do an evaluation on the class. And the best way to do the evaluation would be to go to www.kwu for Keller Williams University, kwueval.com. And the name of the class in the drop-down box is called Immediate Income. And I'd love for you to give me all 5-star high ratings. And again, but what I'm really looking for is feedback to make this class better in the future.
Hey, John, what do you do with the FSBO stuff if you're not reaching them when you show up? Like when you're going back for the 6 to 8 weeks and they're not there, are you just leaving material with them, or what do you do?
No, Brent, I don't leave material. So I'll find when they're there. Like, you know, as a realtor, we're always out in the field driving around. By the way, let me just tell you this, Brent. I only work a local area. I'm not going to drive 40 miles away to a for sale by owner. That FSBO is going to be within a 6 to 7 mile range of where I live. That's just me. Okay. So therefore, I can drive by several times. If they're not there Monday at 4 o'clock, you know, maybe I'm going out to dinner at 6 o'clock and got wife in the car or something, and I'm driving by and they're there, I'm going to stop right then. Because remember, I'm not going in on future visits. It's going to be a 5-minute visit at the front door. But I'm never going to leave anything. Never. Okay. Any other questions? Well, guys, it's been my absolute pleasure and honor to help Curtis and you guys. And I just want to let you know, those of you who are being coached by Curtis, you've got a great coach. Sharp guy, proven himself in the mortgage industry for many, many years at a very high level, proven himself in the real estate world at a very high level, and led one of our biggest market centers, Keller Williams franchises, as a team leader, and then recruited, brought agents in, and then trained them. You know, I love to see Curtis Lucy today on the call. He's one of my greatest friends, and his program, read that book, Appreciation Marketing. It changed my life. years ago, and it's a short little read, and I think it'll change yours. I think we all need to be in a position where we just appreciate people more. And maybe it's just because I'm getting older now, but the older I get, the more I appreciate people. And time is short. You know, it's like a roll of toilet paper. The closer you get to the end, the faster it goes. All right, love you guys. Thank you.
And on that note,
Thank you.
thank you, John.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thanks, Curtis. Thanks, John.
John.
Pleasure. Bye, everybody.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Curtis.
Thank you for doing the class.
My pleasure.
I may use that last quote.